I want to go on shows right now and argue about the lab leak, or I want to argue about vaccine efficacy with conservatives, or I want to argue about the Epstein, or I want to fight with lefties about whether or not they support the Democratic Party, or I want to fight about Israel-Palestine. Like I want to fight about these issues. It's way more entertaining to me. It's what I've dumped like all my time into researching for the past year and a half. The idea that like it's time to go back to the trenches of the crazy online drama. Also with a bunch of people that kind of have nothing to lose. Like, not to be mean, but like these people are all losers and they've been losers for a long time. Like, not going anywhere. Like, these people are not going to be anything in a few years. So like, why waste and invest so much time right now? I just don't want to. It's not fun for me. Okay, so one of the things that I've said, a brief history of my content, okay? And I was on sites like, I think Ustream, Livestream, and then eventually there was a site called Justin TV. I was a Starcraft 2, we'll say semi-pro / ladder hero / streamer. There were opportunities in my career to dedicate more time to practice versus streaming, but I always opted for the streamer route because the income was more stable and I already had a kid. So I was like, okay, I probably should not just go hardcore into just gaming. At around 2013, I think, Neo Destiny, r/Starcraft, Blizzard, League of Legends, post, Reddit. I think I kind of saw the writing on the wall for StarCraft 2. For people that aren't aware of this, prior to streaming, there were kind of like, I would say there were like two real, quote unquote, esports kind of. There was a game called Starcraft, and then the expansion is what was played in South Korea, Starcraft Brood War. And then I would say broadly known across Europe would be Counter-Strike 1.6, I think. I feel like these were the two big like PC game esports. There might have been some console stuff, but I was never as big of a console person, so that's kind of what existed. In 2010-ish, after I started streaming, StarCraft 2 came out. StarCraft 2 became like the world's preeminent esport. I was the largest streamer in the world, probably for a couple of years. StarCraft 2 was the biggest game. I was the biggest streamer, so it like logically follows. There was a site called Team Liquid. People would go there to find streamers, blah, 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 blah. As the world changed and as the industries developed, one thing that I noticed that happens in business in industries is there's this thing, I assume there's this thing, I don't have an MBA or anything, but I always hear this term called first mover advantage, where I don't feel like there is much of a first mover advantage, or rather, there's a first mover advantage that helps you like get a foothold in, but then you will lose if you don't innovate, and somebody will probably come along and do what you're doing better. But the people who are the first movers never feel like they're going to be displaced. I feel like for Vine is a good example of this, right? From like Vine, like seemed really popular for a little bit and then blew up, and I guess short form content just wasn't the future. And then obviously, you know, you get like TikTok and then Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and everything else. Like, oh, that is the future. Somehow just Vine just didn't capitalize on it, or things like Skype. Or Microsoft Teams or whatever. I don't know, maybe people are going to do video conferencing, and that's not a thing, but then Zoom blew up, right? Somehow. I don't know why this happens or how this happens, whatever. But I kind of get the feeling that even though all of the StarCraft 2 people were kind of high on their own supply and felt like StarCraft 2 was this unmovable, like dominating industry thing, it felt like Blizzard didn't have the same attention to that game or attention to the longevity of the game as other up-and-coming game formats, especially MOBAs. And at the time, MOBAs were kind of seen as like kind of a fun, cool thing on the side, but they didn't take them very seriously. I don't know if Dota 2 was out yet. I don't know when Dota 2 did come out. But I know like Heroes of New Earth kind of came and it wasn't really, I think Dota, people still kind of played Dota, but this game League of Legends was starting to grow and the streamers there were starting to get very big, and Riot had like a very active attention that they were paying to the community. So I remember around this time, like I kind of expressed disappointment, was like, hey, I think StarCraft 2 is going to be that's not good. This was at the end of 2012. I got a lot of shit for this, but whatever. I was right. So from this like end of 2012, 2013, for the first time in my streaming career, I do this big like content diversification thing. And by content diversification, I mean I moved from StarCraft 2 to League of Legends, which was scary because obviously this was the first time in my career where I had like a significant drop in viewership. When I streamed StarCraft 2, I would say my concurrent viewership was probably anywhere from 5 to 7K, which was massive back then. And then I would say that after switching to League, it would go from like 1.5 to 2.5K. And then maybe sometimes it'd be higher if I was playing with friends or whatever. And then after doing LOL, from there I kind of branch out into more variety-ish content. Like I play, those are like the DayZ days, other types of stuff, but you know, like kind of more not like hardcore ladder hero stuff, I think. Speaking of drama Reddit posts, who remembers this one? Oh my God. Oh, I tried to be such a nice loser back then. Oh, I was right on this too. I feel like my thoughts back then were that the Arma 2 engine just couldn't handle what they wanted to do with DayZ, and that seemed obvious, especially once when Dean went on to make DayZ as a standalone game. It just seemed like that engine was never going to deliver what they wanted it to, and I don't think it really ever did. It never got to where they wanted it to be. Maybe now, actually, at this point, maybe 15 years later, maybe it is. We got super ass pained when I made this. Oh man, they're on a whole new engine now. Oh, okay, maybe they had to switch completely. I don't know. One of the things that started to happen around so leading up to this, I always had like an interest in a lot of different things. I played video games, yeah, but I also talked about Trump and actually, ironically, I think I did talk about Trump in 2012. I don't remember what for. But things like science and media, news, politics, foreign stuff, whatever. This was always an interest. So we talk about other things, philosophy, whatever the fuck else in the background too. It wasn't just video games. It was always talking and stuff. Around 2016, this was the legendary moment that gamers realized that they could do politics. This is when the world started to get darker, and we got a Gamergate. I'm sure if you read my wiki, the timelines are going to be way better and more fleshed out. I'm too lazy to bring it up because I don't give a fuck. But I feel like there was a good couple year period here where I wanted to be so my background was in the reason why I got popular as a Starcraft 2 player and then not as much kind of as a League of Legends player is because what the wait, Control Z is undo. Jesus. Is because I was really good at being an asshole. Okay. So my insults were funny. I could I could roast people. I was pretty clever. Funny to watch in a 1v1 environment. Not as much fun to watch in a 5v5 environment because it comes off as more salty than entertaining. But my background was in being a hardcore e-boy, internet boy, not e-boy, sorry, not yet. But was being an internet kid, okay? So very, very, very edgy shit. Hardcore. And prior to getting into streaming or whatever, my background before this would be many, many years on the dreaded place called battle.net, in channel sex and channel town square, in hacked UMS games, just horrible, horrible, horrible stuff, okay? Maybe not quite as bad as be at its worst, but pretty degenerated, horrible, evil shit. Not evil, but bad. You were in IC Cup 2 with Starcraft? Oh yeah, I played on that server for a little bit. I feel like if you spammed games and you were okay, I think I got mid-season, maybe A- or maybe just B+ on an account. But that was everybody on IC Cup knew that you suck shit when you're B+ and your record was 224, 221, and you're oh, okay. And then when you queue a game up and you slash stats the person and they'd be 37-2, you're all right, whatever, bro. Yeah, f that. But anyway, okay. Oh yeah, I also had I did a little PC building service in this time period where I charged people, I think 10 or 15% of the total cost to build. I'd build PCs, did a bunch of fun stuff with overclocking and deleting processors and all this bullshit and all that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so when 2016 to 2018, when this time era, when this rolls around, by this point, politically, I kind of started off politically as kind of this libertarian-esque person. When I was in college in 2008, I was a big Ron Paul supporter. I had a little bit of Ayn Rand, although I realized that I got brainwashed way too fast by that in high school, but I still kind of kept some of that flavor, abolish the Fed. As long as we just go back to a gold standard, it'll fix literally all of society's problems. All of that. But then as time went on, especially looking at life through the lens of my kid, I was oh, it's kind of crazy how different life is when you start to have money, right? If I get pulled over, I get a speeding ticket. It's who the fuck cares? You just pay things off. I started to notice that feeling that you have when you are working poor, and that doesn't mean that you work a part-time job while mom and dad cover 100% of your expenses, okay? That feeling that you have when you're working poor is that why does nothing seem to go right for me and everything seems to go better for people in different positions? The reality is that's not true. Everybody has about the same amount of luck. The problem is that when you fuck up when you're working poor, it's going to fuck you way harder. And when you fuck up when you have money, it doesn't fuck you up basically at all. It's it's whatever. So as my life started to change, once I started to make money from streaming, I was okay, well, this seems kind of bullshit. I feel life was significantly harder before this. I don't know how fair this is. So my politics start to kind of shift to the left as time goes on. I don't know what you'd call me by 2016. I was very convinced that lobbying was the largest issue that we had in the United States and corporations buying politicians and shit. I was a huge Bernie Sanders supporter as a result of that. Not out of any, like socialist thing or whatever, but just because I believed in like redistribution and all of that. And I thought that the lobbying thing was really big. And I think Bernie Sanders talked about that more than anybody else. And then eventually, once he dropped, I voted for Hillary Clinton and all that. At the time in 2016, the feeling online was that conservatives were based and Chad and masculine and debate bros, and liberals were like blue-haired, screeching, fat losers. The people that were kind of like making the money and making the rounds in internet communities, people like Steven Crowder with the college Change My Mind events, people like Ben Shapiro with the facts over feelings, and then all of the new Gamergate crowd, which a lot of this, regardless of how you feel it started or whether it was politics or journalism or ethics in journalism, whatever the fuck else, which, I mean, there are arguments to be out there, but a lot of the Gamergate stuff was reactionary to the field of gaming diversifying quite heavily and quite quickly, which it did, for a little bit for the worse, mainly largely for the better, though. But it felt very strange when you were in the gaming field. And a lot of those feelings are legitimate. I know that they say that white people aren't supposed to have feelings about things or that men aren't supposed to, but we did. And I understand a lot of that. But this happened, and I think Gamergate was largely a response to that. You got to keep in mind, so my background is exceptional just because of weird life stuff that I happen to have. Like all of my friends in high school, I went to an all-boys high school, but my primary friend group was a group of girls from the neighboring all-girls school because one of the girls was giving me a ride home. So I had like a lot of friends that were girls growing up in high school. But if not for that one connection I had in life, okay, so I'm 36 years old, graduated high school in 2007. If you were playing video games back then, this is like the most radioactive to hobby you could ever fucking have, okay? Being a geek wasn't cool. Being a nerd wasn't sexy. Having computers, basically the stereotype was like a fat, Cheeto, dusted finger, virgin, pimply face, acne loser. He talks like this, right? That was the entire societal impression of gamers. And yeah, you would like the talk online is like, should I tell my girlfriend or should I tell this girl I'm going out with that I play video games, that I go on the internet or whatever? It just wasn't a popular thing. So in a relatively short time span, like within 10 years, now, you're loading up games, and where you used to just see, all white guys spamming the N-word at each other. Now there's like a ton of girls, a ton of, people different skin colors, a ton of people. It was a very, very, very quick and a very, very dramatic change. Again, I would say largely for the better. Some soy stuff came in, but for the most part, I think this was really good. It dramatically expanded the audiences, gave us new games, new stories, a ton of other cool shit. But Gamergate, okay? Because I came out of this like edgy internet era, but my politics were left-leaning, I think I had a very unique ability to enter right-wing spaces with like right-wing coded rhetoric or argumentation style, but argue from a very left-wing perspective. And this is how I got popular initially from 2016 to 2018 doing politics. So I think I was the only, no, don't hedge. I was the only live streamer on Twitch that was doing politics. I was basically universally hated on Twitch because everybody was right-wing or like Gamergate coded. I wouldn't say actually right-wing. I used to call them anti-SJW bros. They weren't really right-wing in that they were like, oh, we need to take away welfare from the poor. It was more just like, why are there so many women in gaming and maybe trans stuff is weird or whatever else. But that was like the big hyperfixation was like being anti-woke. It wasn't anti-woke back then. We called it anti-SJW, okay? So like if I were going in chats with Asmongold or Trainwrecks or any of these other huge streamers, this is before XQC streamed, basically everybody's like, oh, this fucking liberal, this fucking piece of shit, or whatever. But that's fine. I fought a lot. I debated a lot of people. Sometimes the very, very far left, like Reddit says, but generally it was mainly right-wingers. This is where I got kind of popular, was doing that. In the course of that, I started to kind of carve out a safe space, I would say, for like left-leaning people on Twitch. A lot of these early streamers kind of like came up in that wing of like kind of like a safe-ish space that I carved out. People like Denims, people like Hassan were on my stream. People like Vosh used to be people that called in from the very far left back in 2011. I think like the first debate I had with Vosh, I think was me playing Far Cry 3. Destiny, debate, Vosh, Far Cry 3. I don't even know. This video is going to be like over 10 years old, I think. Destiny, Irish laddie debate. He had a different name back then.
What's up, baby girl?
I think we talked before this. Oh, Everyday Carry. That was Dan's company. yeah, but anyway, I did that. Eventually people started to kind of grow on Twitch as like doing politics. Back then when like just chatting wasn't really a thing, that section of Twitch didn't really exist. I think I got banned one time, I think even for not playing a game on Twitch. Like you were always supposed to be playing games, and sometimes the admins would come by and bot me because I was like just chatting politics or whatever. But eventually we troopered forward. Politics became kind of a thing on Twitch. Other left-leaning streamers came up under me. I kind of started doing content with Hassan in 2019 maybe, I think. Yeah, and then the rest is, what would we say, maybe 2020, 2021. I think I kind of abandoned any kind of gaming. I wasn't really doing League that much as like a main part of my stream content. And then my content like radically expanded to include just a lot of different types of things. So we had like politics. I'm going to put politics in quotes here because I mean like online debating and stuff. We kind of did like gaming, sometimes autism games like Factorio, sometimes just playing new games when they'd come out, Elden Ring, Dark Souls or whatever. I would say drama, and then just like a bunch of other like minor stuff. We did like D&D. We did, yeah, like tons of collabs with like random streamers. You know, it could be like Offline TV, Lily, could be OTK. They weren't called OTK back then. Could be other streamers. Could be the Scuffed podcast, you know, all this stuff. I don't like to pathologize, but you know, I've read this enough and I could just be backwards rationalizing it. But there's I think one of the theories for ADHD is supposed to be the idea that there is some ordinary level of dopamine that a human brain is used to existing at. And what happens is for whatever reason, there is I should know the name of the region. I should do a deep dive on ADHD. I feel like I should know anything. There's a region of your brain it's actually smaller than other people's. It's considered a neurodevelopmental disorder. And you have less dopamine than people normally do. And as a result of this, you're kind of like looking for stimulation to bring it up to like what's like an exciting thing. So people with ADHD oftentimes will get stimulation in ways that it could be things with like ordinary like reward schedules. So things like video games and grinding video games can feel good because it's always like kind of giving you these like steady drip feeds of rewards. For me, I think it manifested in a lot of different ways, like having a wide variety of interests. Like I liked arguing politics, and then when I was bored of politics, I could just go over and I could play Elden Ring, and then when I was done with that, I might have like Mr. Girl and Lav jump on, you know, to argue with people, and then I might also be doing like D&D. I could be collabing with people. Like there's a lot of stuff going on that was very fun for me to do. At the end of 2023, there's like a lot of life concepts in here. I didn't prepare slides for today. I'm sorry. I think that you have like a character to yourself, like you're a certain person, and I think when you're a person, you do certain actions, and when you do these actions, it's not just a person expressing themselves with their actions. The actions also have a feedback into turning you into a certain type of person as well, right? Like this is like a cycle that is continually reinforcing and acting on itself. So if you want to be a better person, you know, what do? Well, you try to manifest it in better actions, you know. If you've done like CBT before, this kind of looks a little bit like, we don't get into all that, but it kind of looks a little bit like that triangle. I think that this is definitely a thing that's acting at all points in time. You can find this type of pattern. I think it plays out in a lot of different ways. You know, like the friends that you have around you, if you make bad friends, eventually those bad friends rub off on you, you make more bad friends, like you can kind of like, all of these things feed back into each other. And so if you take better actions as a person, hopefully you become a better person, you know, so on and so forth. I think that this same type of pattern also plays out when you are a streamer. And then the audience demands more of those streams. There's a highly simplified version of audience capture, right? If I do a stream one day where I'm on black people and I get a whole bunch of races in my chat, I'm like, bro, this is awesome. Well, the next stream that I do, if I show black people, they're all going to show up again, and they might even bring their friends, and I can grow like that. And then, you know, so on and so forth. If I stop doing that, well, they're probably not going to show up as much, and then it doesn't reinforce it. So I'd have to make an intentional shift away from that content, and it would hurt for a little bit, right? But yeah, so like I think this kind of like feedback model exists for a lot of things in life. I think the older you get, the more you realize that almost everything in life is like a feedback system. Very rarely can you cleanly separate one thing or another. When we did the whole genetics arc or whatever, learning about like nature versus nurture, and the idea that you can cleanly separate these is not true at all, right? Nature and nurture play off of each other quite heavily. It's very hard to separate it out completely. But as I'm going through my content up through 2021, and then from 2021 to 2023, we have, as I'm streaming more, benefit for what I do is that I can associate with a lot of people. One thing that I do really well, I don't know if it'll ever be possible. Maybe someday my audience will be able to do this, but even my audience can't do this, and I hate you all for it, is I can talk to a lot of different types of people. So I think it was in 2023 was my huge like expansion podcast arc where I was going on a ton of different shows. I remember flying to LA and having like 7 shows scheduled within like 5 days. Just going on a ton of podcasts, talking to a ton of people. As a result of that, I gain a huge audience across different spectrums that expect to see different types of content. You do a certain type of stream, you gain a certain type of audience. You do more of these types of streams, you gain more audience. I had a very, very wide variety of content, blah, 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 blah. I think that in 2022 and 2023, because the red pill stuff was so relationship and interpersonal focused, and because drama content was so hot on the internet, and then because I'd started to kind of like make some friends in that kind of arena, so people like ABBA, obviously Laughing Mr. Girl, some of the commentary people I think might have been then, this stuff started to become more and more, I'll say more and more popular, I guess. Like I think we were regularly doing like 12 to 15,000 view streams with like Lav coming on and telling some black woman that she didn't understand black issues or something, or like Mr. Girl coming on and arguing with ABBA about, kids or whatever, like just like crazy stuff. I think mainly 2022, I think I remember joking back then that like, the Orbiter Civil Wars, like that whole era of just tons of people jumping in, fighting with each other, fighting other communities, just like tons of crazy, there's just like there was like peak. Yeah, it almost felt like the Avengers Infinity War or Endgame phase or whatever. This content is very fun because it's almost like reality TV-esque. It's super entertaining. People are very hyped on the interpersonal drama. Drama is drama. People love drama. People love drama since the Greeks, since cavemen were painting in caves, apes, everybody loves drama. So obviously there's a massive attraction to it. It's easy to do this type of content. Literally you just turn the stream on and people will jump into rooms and scream at each other. High viewership, broad appeal. The one kind of like issue with this type of drama or with this type of content is it also garners like a certain kind of audience. Largely, it's fine. I have a lot of control over my audience. I think streamers have a lot of control over their audience, although everybody likes to pretend otherwise when they, when I have no responsibility for things. But there's a certain type of viewer for drama content that you won't find in the politics world. You don't really find it in the gaming world, although sometimes in the gaming streaming world, maybe. Probably not really in the D&D world. Sometimes in the collab world, maybe depending on what you're looking on, depending on how you're collabing or whatever. But there's a certain type of like weird, I don't want to say weird, that's not fair, or it's not accurate. There's a certain type of obsessive viewer that you can get here who is, I'm going to use this word. I hate this word because people use it anytime they don't like a certain kind of viewer and it doesn't mean anything. But I would legitimately call this this is a parasocial viewer. And when I say parasocial here, what I mean is people will watch this type of content and they will feel very, very personally invested. And they have to follow all the characters. They have very strong opinions on everything. Sometimes they want to be involved in things if they can be. They're tracking, and because it's the streamer world, like one of the reasons why people really got into reality TV was because you started to get more access to people that you like never really had before, right? So you see celebs, and sometimes you see paparazzi see celebs, but when stuff like Jersey Shore came out, I'm sure there were some popular ones before Jersey Shore. That was the one that I remember being really big with Snooki and Jim Tan Laundry and Mike and all these guys, right? When Pauly D and all these guys. When Jersey Shore came out, you were getting like, Big Brother was obviously a big one too. I never watched Big Brother actually. I don't know why I was never with anybody or did anybody watch Big Brother, but Jersey Shore was the one that I saw more of than anything else. But Big Brother was one too. You start to get cameras watching people all the time. You start to be getting a lot of interpersonal reactions that don't seem as scripted. And then you start to get people, as social media blows up, you start to get access to them off camera as well, right? And in this world, you have, in this world, in my streaming world, now you have reality TV where you have so much access and so much available stuff to comb through that if you want to fully dive into obsessing over any of these online types of figures, you can do it in ways that you never, ever, ever have been able to do before. So like at its worst, I would say, right? So probably the number one stalking-ish person I had would be Blav. I wish I could find this post on Kiwi Farms. He'll probably link it because he likes to, whenever I talk about him, he feels like super excited. And then usually he'll type something like, I don't even watch Destiny anymore. And then he'll type like 20 posts afterwards. And he's going to mention me saying this. And then he's going to type, I only say that to bait Destiny into saying that. And then he's going to, yeah, right, because it's just this is the games that he likes to play. But I remember when he was trying to figure out who I was going to date after I broke up with Melina, there's a post on Kiwi Farms where there's like 100 screenshots that he showed of him on a secret Discord account where he would add every single girl he ever thought I spoke with. And then he had an Instagram account where he followed every single account that would follow me or that I would follow to see who would follow or unfollow. And then he would take screenshots throughout the day to see which accounts lit up when, to see if he could figure out which person I was talking to at different times of the day, right? So like this is the level of access that you can get to people's life. And then when I was on, when I had my camera set up out in that other room, right, you could see somebody in the background. People would obsessively try to figure out, like, oh, who is that? Like, what's their Instagram? Like, can we find out who this is? Like, what's their life story? What's going on with them? And it's just this very, very, very obsessive type of thing. But I think it's fine. It's like it's not fine. It's very weird. But it's like par for the course of this type of content. There's a high payoff there in terms of like, there's a lot of viewership. And there is there's a high payoff. There's a lot of viewership. And you pay off viewership, you monetize it, right? It's like, okay, yeah, Kiwi Farms people are crazy, Blav and Mr. Girl are crazy, but we argue with them, we bring them on stream, you light them up, make videos out of it. Like, it's all kind of like par for the course. There were a lot of people that asked me things about like, oh, like, don't you think this is I don't think people use the word optics yet, but people were, like, oh, are you sure that this type of content is good to do with politics? Or are you sure you enjoy this? Or this seems really stressful or whatever. I think I have a unique ability to deal with online stress and online things. And for me personally, psychologically, as long as I don't suffer any of the negative sides of a lot of the attention here, I can capitalize on all the upsides, which I think I did for a long time. Okay, so that's, okay. We have all this out of the way. So all of this set up, at the end of 2023, my close, personal, wonderful friend, Cherry, is asking me if she wants to, come over and hang out for a week. And I was kind of like back and forth. I was like, listen, you've twit longer with me literally twice. Like, I feel like it was obviously a bad idea. She's like, no, it'll be great. It'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Cherry comes out, hangs out for a week. And while she's here, I get to try the God pill. I always spell this wrong. I don't know how to spell it. I'm pretty sure I butchered this. But the Adderalls, okay? She told me, like, yeah, everybody always memes about you being ADHD, and everybody memes about it. Like, you should try it, see how it goes, whatever. It's like, okay, fine, whatever. I try it for, I think I've said this before, like 3 days. I've done MDMA before. I think I've done, methamphetamine before. It definitely felt like I'm like, I'm just high as for like 3 days. I'm like, it's awesome. Okay. I'm just high. Okay. So, feels good, relax and chill. Pretty in the zone, but, very happy, very euphoric. There's like an amphetamine euphoria if you've ever used these types of drugs before. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then after day 3, I would say, all of a sudden, so I would say largely the euphoria is like tapered off. And then after day 3, I'm like sitting here and I'm like, oh, like, let's like read stuff. And then this is when the Israel-Palestine argument, it's like, oh, I can just sit down and my mind is quiet. Prior to this, I would always have to have like a game going in the background. I'd have to be doing something else, but I can kind of just like sit and read and absorb information like an ordinary human being. And after doing this for a couple weeks, I don't remember when October 7th happens. It's sometime after this. I'm like, oh, we should learn about like Israel-Palestine. And then I realized that I can sit down and I can like actually sit and like read books and go through full like papers, like an actual paper, not just the abstract. And I can like watch interviews and I can start to like take notes and gather information. I was like, oh, this is like actually really cool. This is like way more fruitful than whatever the fuck I was doing before. So like if you ever watched my stream really prior to 2023, you can probably find multiple times of me saying like history sucks. This is the worst topic in the world. I can never do this shit. Right now, it's like, this is like one of my favorite topics. I love history. One of the reasons why I didn't like it before is because I couldn't sit down and pay any attention to it. History just seemed like kind of discrete events to me. And it's like, wow, none of this matters. How do people even remember this stupid shit? But now if you can follow like whole timelines, it's like, oh, actually history makes a lot of sense. And if you think about it, it has to make sense because history is literally causally linked because it's literally one event after another. It has to be. It can't be any other way. It's history, right? There are actual events that happen. Okay. So at this point, I would say something kind of good happens, but there's an issue at the same time. At this point, I start to realize, okay, I kind of lost a lot of my desire to like just collab with random gamer people. I wasn't doing D&D anymore. Before, it was really fun to kind of balance interpersonally all of these crazy people on a professional level. Even though a lot of them would kind of come at my career a lot. Vosh and his community would come at my career due to like Rittenhouse stuff and spam reporting my Mr. Girl in Lab could try to come at my career, say I was a manipulator. Bob Seven tried to come at my career, like talking weird in the background. Like all of these events were like, they were fun, they were exciting. It was crazy. But I was like, I just don't have like the same taste for it. Like, why would I fight with these people when I can just like, it sounds really cringe, but like when I can sit down and read a book and I can like study stuff that's like, it feels so much more intellectually rewarding. This is super pretentious. I don't mean to say that all drama is bad, just that personally, I just feel like I didn't have the same like obsessive drive for it. It was like, oh, let's see what crazy is going on today. So this got axed out, and then I don't really do gaming really at all anymore, which if you were to wake up from a coma and watch my streams today, it would be very surprising. I don't think people realize that I had to be playing games in the past. Even when I'm having like hardcore conversations, but I have to have a game going. They were just sitting there talking to somebody who was excruciating to me. I had to have something else going on in the background. But then my focus kind of became exclusively politics. And I feel like for political stuff, this was good because I have a huge interest in it. I feel like I'm very good at things like debate or research now. I think that there's a social good to it, obviously. I feel like my political beliefs are good for society and I want to push it. And I make money on it and I get compensated for it really well. So this is like, there's some, there's a word that starts with a K. I always mention this, but I never look it up. It's like Japanese, and it's like called like Kogaga or some bullshit. And it's got like the 4 circles, and it's like, oh, if you have all these things, anybody know what I'm talking about? Ikigai. Is this it? Ikigai. Oh, so like, what do you love? So something you enjoy doing. What does the world need? So something that has some social benefit. What can you be paid for? Right? Like, what do you make money doing? And then what are you good at? Right? What are you good at? What are you good at, obviously? So it's like this union of like all of these things. Okay, this is like perfect for me, right? This is a very, very, very good job. So then I do, so from 2024, beginning of 2024 onwards, I basically kind of branch out exclusively into the politics direction. Initially, this is kind of good, kind of bad, mainly good. A lot of people are like, oh, we want to like serious politics arc. Like a lot of my high viewership stuff was playing video games, watching videos about politics, talking to people about politics. But generally, I would say people were more happy than not. Although you started to see, some grumblings for some people who initially would have been very unpopular, but you'll see people who are like, oh, like, why don't we play games anymore? Where's the League of Legends? Or, oh, like, I actually missed the drama. Where's the drama? You'd have some grumblings, but this always happens when you change content as a streamer. You might gain new viewers in this direction, and you're probably going to lose viewers in the other directions, which is fine. It's part of the give and pull anytime you change content. However, as I move in this direction, the only issue that is kind of attached to this, unfortunately, is I still have kind of the weird obsessive viewership that I would just call the parasocial drama people. Because of the kind of content I did before, the style of content, there are still these people that watch me in a very, very, very obsessively kind of weird way. Now, it's not that big of a deal. One way that I try to mitigate this is one of my biggest kind of parasocially fans was, I think, an ex-Nick Fuentes viewer. Sometimes we call him Jew Stalker, but this Gisticle guy who, to this day, has the most mentions of my name in my chat, in the history of my chat. Keep in mind, I think he was only active in my chat for, like 2 to 3 years? But me and him, I think, were pretty friendly. And my idea was, okay, maybe I can kind of segregate all of the drama and stuff. That can be kind of like the drama containment zone. So if you were a drama-ish friend, so like you're kind of like Kelly Jeans, maybe maybe Lav initially, maybe kind of like Dariusian and his drama, like any of that drama stuff, I can kind of like push it off to the logistical stuff, right? So he had his stream. This was kind of like the drama containment / overflow zone. All those people could kind of go live on there. And then this was kind of like the world that I was kind of moving forward in. The idea is I'm going forward into politics as hardcore as I can. So we get into like the canvassing stuff, talking to politicians, supporting, whatever real life efforts to kind of try to enact or evoke some kind of political change. I can kind of like offload all of the weird parasocial obsessive drama people into the kind of like the logistical server, and then they can all kind of like do their thing in that direction. And then I think this was kind of the plan. This is kind of like the plan going forward. And then I think I mentioned this before, but at the end of 2024, as I'm cleaning out a lot of my friends lists, I'm like kind of, I'm like, okay, no more drama stuff. I'm getting rid of like all old friends or whatever. There was a person that I had on my friends list that I chatted with like 3 years earlier, who I, was like fairly close with a while ago. We just kind of like stopped talking over time. I messaged that person. That person, I think, either had a current boyfriend or ex-boyfriend was logged into the account, who was a Queeman viewer, funnily enough. And when they got a message from me on that account, what I think happened, I still don't know to this day, but when I messaged the account, I think they scrolled up, they saw there's a whole bunch of explicit content, and they were like, oh shit, I'm gonna dump all this content onto Kiwi Farms. Kind of annoying, but at the end of 2024 to the beginning of 2025, I have all of this stuff gets posted onto Kiwi Farms, maybe like 20 or so videos of me off, maybe 4 or 5 videos of me hooking up with other people. There's a whole bunch of shit gets dumped onto Kiwi Farms, a bunch of explicit conversations with me and other people, just like, okay, well, that's all right, well. And the annoying thing for this, the reason why this was so especially difficult to deal with, ignoring the fact that, it's already like kind of like, okay, well, that's kind of crazy, was that because I was kind of moving in this direction, and then this all kind of gets dug up, I don't really have the same capability of dealing with it. Like I can't monetize it. I can't talk about it a ton on a stream. I can't bring on people to kind of like argue with and fight over it, because I'm not really doing that style of content anymore. So I'm managing to all of the logistical Discord server for a variety of reasons, very few good and mostly retarded and bad. All the sites are completely 180. All of these old parasocial viewers who are like obsessively following me have finally got their proof that I'm a manipulator, evil, rapist person, or whatever the fuck. So the old drama viewers that I carried with me, the whole logistical server that I had kind of as a containment zone, all of them kind of come along for the anti-fan ride, which again wouldn't normally be an issue, but because I changed all of my content style to just doing politics, I didn't have the same kind of toolbox to deal with it anymore. And then this was kind of the difficulty of navigating the end of last year and the beginning of this year. I think I took there's more, we can get into like more details of the different players involved here, but it's not really that relevant or that important. But that's just kind of I'm setting the stage for the lead up, I guess, to this. Is there any specific reason why you don't like the drama anymore? I already said, it was exciting to me. I think it was super exciting. I was super invested in it. But now I just don't have the same feeling. Like if I had time to invest in something, I'd rather just like, read or study or work on my COVID or revise my J6 script or whatever project or whatever. What does toolbox mean? Can you specify? Well, sure. So like there was a super dramatic event in the past. Like let's say that I was doing drama style content, the same way in 2024, 2025 as I was doing in the past, right? As soon as all that stuff leaks onto Kiwi Farms, I'm probably going to be like, and then you've got people making crazy accusations. You've got Cherry tweeting out on Hinge or whatever about me, all this shit. It would be like, oh, well, let's come on stream and debate about it. Oh, let's start writing manifestos and tracking everybody's opinion about it. Oh, let's make our rounds through the commentary community, like debate and argue. And this would be like, it would be kind of like rehashing the whole Lab Mr. Girl saga, where it's like, we're going to have the orbital wars again. We'll see who agrees with what. We're going to, it would be a massive content farm, right? But it would be very dramatic and it would be very much in the drama direction. But the problem is it would take me further away from the politics stuff. Now in the past, it doesn't matter because I like to do a variety of content. And if politics has to take a hold or a backseat to crazy drama shit, if the drama shit is exciting, well, then I don't care. But now I didn't have the same interest. So And that's what I mean. I didn't have the toolbox to deal with it anymore, because it just wasn't the direction of my content at that point. I'm setting up I just want to talk a little bit about the Pisco stuff and kind of like where all that is. But I kind of have to have all of this, unfortunately, all of this background. Destiny, they're just trying to milk you for their content, though. Yeah, but it was a benefit. It was a mutual milking. Like, we milked each other. We all milked each other back then. That was one of the reasons why I was surprised that Lab and Mr. Girl went as unhinged about me, because I figured that they were getting a ton of attention. I was getting a ton of attention. We were all kind of like suckling on each other's teats for the drama milking. We were all, I should take a art class, dude. Imagine this cow 69'd with another cow. There we go. This is what we were like. We were all milking each other. So now the challenging / interesting / difficult thing to deal with. So we have, I'll just put this kind of, we'll say anti-fans and drama spaces. So like Discord servers, my KF thread. But then on this side, I no longer have the tools to capitalize on any of it. And then my fan base is also not really as equipped to deal with it, right? As I'm moving more in the political direction, there's not really the same appetite among my fans to be like, oh, like we need to go hardcore, like debate Gisticle and debate Cherry and debate Pixie and debate Lauren and debate all these people and all these like interpersonal sexual things. Because most people just didn't, like, especially after the Red Pill arc, we were already kind of exhausted on all this like interpersonal relationship stuff, So as a result of kind of not having these, as a result of this, so we've kind of like trudged forward for a while, but okay, so now, okay, just keep this in the back of your mind, okay? Just keep this here in the back of your mind. One of the things that has changed recently on the internet, damn, there's so much here. I just have to explain this, because if I just explain like these overlaying, no, not overlaying. If I just explain discrete or specific things, it does sound very schizo, okay? So this is me trying to convince you that I'm not schizophrenic, right? I want to say from long-term fan perspective, the lawsuit was a huge morale blow regarding what felt okay to say / okay to defend you over. Yeah, no, that's true. That was a big meme. I just did like a whole business redesign in the beginning of January, or not redesign, a big business restructure. I hired a bunch of people. I found a COO. I had like a new like thing for mini editors. I had like the whole side server set up for the political stuff. I had my studio obviously in New York with Pisco. I had connections that were pretty deep in campaigns that every single person here would recognize for political figures. Like we had a lot of stuff that was kind of working. And then when the lawsuit stuff swept through, when the Substack swept through, really, and then the lawsuit came through, I would say probably half of those people like immediately bounced, which I'm trying to think it's still hard to say how I feel about that. Maybe we'll come back to that. But yeah, obviously that was all of it kind of slowed stuff down. I think we took like a 3-month Factorio break, right? And then I just can you honestly say that post Adderall, your Kumar arc is over, and in 2 or 3 years, we're not going to get another drama bomb? All of this still just slow burn fallout from the pre-Adderall years. I don't like to say it like that, because Kiwi Farmers and other people have like twisted this into some weird thing where I'm saying that like, oh, now that I've started Vyvanse, I don't have sex with people anymore, or something like that. That's retarded. But I have like significantly changed a lot of my personal life such that like these types of things shouldn't happen anymore. Like everything that is happening is like fallout from or prior to this type of stuff, and because of these people that I'm kind of carrying with me. Just as kind of like, and then I'll just reiterate this. No, wait, I'll do this after I explain this part. Okay, let me explain this thing again. Sorry, this is gonna be a rerun. I've explained this quite a bit on stream, but I need all these pieces to be here. I will answer this at Destiny. If that Substack had happened to Pisco, would you have stuck by him? I think that I can very easily and very resolutely say that I use my own judgment and I evaluate people on their own merits more than anybody else that I've known that is my size of a content creator. I have had absolutely no problem in the past stepping out for people who weren't even necessarily like politically aligned with me. I did it. There was the huge Prime Kai thing. I would say I was a closer friend to Dylan than I was to Prime Kai, and I stepped out hard for him. There was the whole Chud Logic thing. I stepped out really hard for him. You say really hard. I mean, it's not like I guess I would have been canceled over it, but nobody's going to cancel me because I'm not in any of these communities anyways, I guess. In a way, I guess kind of like that whole like lol overruled guy. I stepped out for him. I think his whole allegations I think are ridiculous. I didn't think that Crowder's character assassination regarding his wife, I don't think that was fair. Judging a whole relationship based off of a 1.5-minute video, I thought was bullshit. So yeah, I think that I think I've proven my worth insofar as like, am I willing to stand up for a thing that I think is right or wrong, regardless of community feedback or pushback? Like I've demonstrated that enough that I don't feel the need to have to justify like, oh, I would do this or wouldn't do this or whatever, you know. Okay. In the past, so I don't hang out in these communities as much. All right. So you have to guide me if I'm missing things here. But in the past, you had places that the only places I've ever heard of, and I'm sure there are other places like this. I think I'm the only person on the internet that will talk about these places because everybody else is terrified. But the only forums I'm aware of are like this is you have Kiwi Farms, you've got LolCow, and you've got a place called Pretty Ugly Little Liars. These are the only ones I've seen just because of friends I've had that have been posting them, or me myself. The initial purpose of these forums are to, if you think that there is, you would call them like a LolCow, okay? So LolCows are people who don't have any self-awareness about how crazy or stupid the shit they're doing is, and then they constantly make these huge like missteps, and then you kind of just like sit off to the side and you kind of laugh at them, you know, in all the of their life. So on Kiwi Farms, there's a thread posted to me because I guess enough people on Kiwi Farms consider me to be some kind of LolCow, and then somebody who frequents these places has to tell me if this has changed in all the places or just mine, because I truly don't know because I don't visit these places too much. But the old like thread mentality, at least, and the old forum mentality that I'm generally aware of is that there was this rule called, okay, it's called don't touch the poop, okay? There's an old 4chan saying, and the old 4chan saying was, I think this came from B, was we're not your personal army. So if you had an issue with somebody and you like make a thread on B on the random board and you're like, look at this piece of shit, like here's where this guy works, here's his social media, like we should get this guy. I think generally the board etiquette is people replying like, bro, we're not your personal army. If you want to complain or whatever, that's fine, but we're not here to, this isn't the top secret X invasion board, like the out of here, you know? And generally on Kiwi Farms, it was generally the don't touch the poop is kind of the rule. You don't, because you want the cow to keep producing milk, and if the cow becomes aware that a whole bunch of people are, you know, watching them, and if they start to with them, then the cow will go back into the barn and you don't get any more milk from the cow because now they start to lock down their personal life. Maybe they become self-aware. That's like the worst case scenario, and then you can't milk them anymore. And now you're like, oh, we ruined it. So generally speaking, if you were to post things like, oh, like here's this guy's, you know, place of work or whatever, sometimes people would like log or dox out of like curiosity, like, oh, I think this guy works here. Or sometimes people would dox as like, it sounds demented, but sometimes doxing can be fun because it's like, can you do it? Right? Like just the adventure of like, can I Google enough things and follow enough trails to figure out like, oh my God, I found this, like this is where this guy works. But generally speaking, you're not supposed to be like actively fucking with the person because it's bad etiquette. It brings bad attention to the boards. You could get in trouble when people start killing themselves and shit. Obviously, Kiwi Farms caught a lot of heat for the Keffels related stuff. Yeah, you don't want, so don't touch the poop used to be kind of like the golden rule. Okay. Something started to change with a lot of these anti-fan communities. I noticed it the most, obviously, with my lawsuit, and I noticed it a lot with the snark stuff for Ethan. And it sounds so bad to say this, and I'm sorry, my brother, my Jewish brother, but I'm so glad that Ethan's life got tore apart by Hassan and his fans, because now I don't have to seem like an insane person when I talk about this, because it's much, much more obvious and on display now. This type of stuff, like on Kiwi Farms or on LolCal or whatever, this is not stuff that you talk about openly, because it's kind of like, yeah, like I post on this like kind of unhinged crazy place, but like, you know, we're sitting here, you know, like theory crafting, talking, whatever. It's just what we do. But like, you would never come out and be like, oh yeah, I post on Kiwi Farms. Like I'm a proud Kiwi farmer, like here, or I'm a trip on B, like come and look at all of my threads that I put. Right? You wouldn't say this, right? This is not typically like, it's just not a thing you brag about or talk about, right? It's kind of, it would almost be like the equivalent of like, does the narwhal bacon at midnight for like a Redditor? It was just like cringe. Like it would even be more cringe than that, right? But now we have this new thing called like snark. And maybe this came somewhere on the internet from before Ethan, and I just noticed it with Ethan. Like that's entirely possible. Like I admit that I don't keep track of everything on the internet, but something happened where all of a sudden it became more in the spotlight. So like subreddits are going to be a lot more accessible than, forums, and people will cross post from subreddits to other places on Reddit that are more popular subreddits and stuff. And you start to get this world where people are like openly doing this very obsessive, very kind of like, I'm going to use this word parasocial here because I do think it fits, of like, I'm going to A-log you, meaning I'm going to start tracking and writing down every single thing about you, every single thing you do for purposes of probably doxing, swatting, harassment, whatever else, right? People call this A-logging. This type of thing started to come out into the open, but for some reason, and I don't know why, there might be reasons here that maybe I could think about it for a while and figure it out. But for some reason, I feel like this largely emerged from the left. To clarify, stuff like this for like Kiwi forums, for lolcow, I wouldn't say Pretty Ugly Little Liars, like because these guys I think are usually like you're kind of like weird like rad femmes that these people were very strange. But like I would say that lolcow and these people are kind of more, I would say like, I don't even think I would like politically group them as right or left. Maybe like there's kind of like some anti-woke stuff, but they'll also like woke skull depending on who they're viewing. I would say it's kind of like apolitical-ish. Like I wouldn't even say right-wing coded. I don't think that's really, it's just like, I don't even know if anti-woke, it really just depends on who they're watching. Like, it really is just like, oh, like look at this, like look at this he's doing. If you think he's doing something wrong, like different people have different beliefs, different feelings. But somehow this like snark culture started to emerge from like the far left into way more public areas. And these places used to be like kind of dirty little secrets. Like nobody, like commentary bros would kind of go to Kiwi farms to collect research and information on people, but they would never ever say the name of the boards. They would never say the name of the farms. They never reference it directly because they don't want to be A-logged. They don't want to have threads on them. They don't want to have people fighting with them from the boards, or they're petrified of getting doxxed or whatever. And then, but now it's more public. Okay. So now you have your more public snark forums. And one of the big weird things about this is, so this was kind of a theme in me and Pisco's conversation. And admittedly, my argument here is unsatisfying. One thing that Pisco kept asking me is, what did you want me to do in the Vanguard talk, right? This is a very weak link, but it's conceptual, it's the same thing. And my answer to Pisco over and over was like, I don't know what I want you to do in the Vanguard talk. It's hard to say. I don't think it's about that talk. I don't think it's about that specific thing. But there's something happening. There's a larger thing happening that tonally feels like you guys aren't fighting against. And when it comes to the snark stuff, we're past the not fighting against it. For some reason, this starts to grow very large in a particular political sphere. And the scarier thing is that all of the posting here starts to get amplified by streamers. So this is like the graph I've drawn before. You've got your Frogans, you've got your Caseytrons, you've got your Denims, you've got your Mike from PA, and then you've got your, these are like your kind of normal unhinged people. You've got your mega unhinged people like Bad Empanada. And then all of these people have huge flows of information and audiences between sometimes really big creators. And I would say you have like Hassan would be at the top of this. Did I put Hassani? Now you have, okay, so I'm building the pieces, okay? Just follow me on this, okay? So you have these kind of like unhinged places that used to kind of be on their own. They would post, you don't really like mess with people directly. You just kind of like post, obsess over people, make fun of people. It's whatever, gossip forums, right? Celebrity gossip forums, okay? Now you have these places way more out in public with information interflow between like Snark and Kiwi Farms, these places will have the same types of posts will show up, the same types of insults will show up. You have all of them emerging basically on one side of the political aisle. Unless I'm missing it, I don't see a bunch of like crazy snarker shit being made about like I don't know if there's like a Hassan snark. Like I think Dan or people around him like try to start these places, but like the problem is that, remember what I said before, and this is the reason why I'll say this and I never go anywhere with this, because I can't. One of the things that I said before was one of the big issues with dealing with a lot of the drama fallout that happened was I no longer have the tools nor the fan base to actually deal with this stuff. Because now that I do mainly politics, I don't have the prerequisite fan base to obsessively A-log and stalk people's personal lives. Now, other people will make this claim of DGG, but it's just not true. As much as some people might want it to be true, it's just very clearly and very obviously not the case. So for an example, and I mean like this is like one of like, bro, my IQ form is almost 2,000 pages long. Okay? But just to give like an example, kind of like the stuff that I'm talking about to ground it out a little bit. So this is like a fun poster of mine. This guy obsesses a lot of my life. You can go back through his posts and see a lot of crazy shit. So here's a post by this wonderful guy, Cloudy2, okay? The Destiny separated himself from his son because he was finding himself sexually aroused in his presence, and he wanted to create distance as a prophylactic to sexually abusing him. I will not be making the case for this theory. It's self-evident, this guy is the whitest person ever, by the way. It's self-evident for anyone who's been observing this pedophile worm for enough time. I do not give a fuck about maintaining the credibility of a Nazi forum that hosts a tranny suicide scoreboard, thanks Hassan, which, by the way, has never been more competitive. Destiny's remaining non-Jeet, that's non-Indian. For some reason, they're convinced my audience is full of Indians, Jews, and something else. I don't know. Remaining non-Jeet audience is almost exclusively Troons, so trans people, who will soon be giving the Destiny thread a deep playoff run on said scoreboard. We love October baseball, folks. The Troons, by the way, are unsurprisingly undisturbed by Destiny being a rapist. A pure coincidence. The two remaining populations that still love and defend Destiny are either deranged, drug-addled freaks who are fixated on childhood, genital identity, and whose national pastime is leaving women to die in a ditch. Sorry, these are merely a needful rapes. Destiny, stop, Mr. Trump. Sorry. This is, I think, at like advanced level anti-Indian racism. I don't actually know. Sorry. I don't know that. But I digress. Destiny gets pleasure from his Discord, conveniently serving a dual purpose, surrogate parenthood, and a vector to sexually traumatize his son over and over by Nazi pedophiles, his father openly attempting to sexually humiliate his victims into silence, and videos of his own father sucking a stranger's HIV plus cock. He doesn't even have to switch platforms to parent, sexually abuse his son, or rape mentally ill women-based cinema. Yes, Nathan was at risk of being physically molested, as opposed to merely virtually molested, as he is now. While in the presence of his father at home, Destiny's actions allude to this. He was close to his son until around age 7 to 8, when he suddenly abandoned him. Why did he abandon him? Of course, there were multiple purposes, including, but not limited to, the following things that parenting would interfere with. Pure hedonistic/utilitarian pleasure-seeking as a coping mechanism to silence the screaming child inside of him, an abdication of responsibility to humanity, a spite-driven turning away from a society which failed to protect him from being raped as a young child, avoiding visual reminders that he was once a child, because you see, Destiny was raped as a young child, and Nathan bears a striking resemblance to young Destiny. But the most glaring thing to note is Nathan's age, where the unprompted abandonment occurred. By Nathan's own account, Destiny was a close, loving father to his son until he was age 7 to 8, or, in other words, when Nathan became the age where he began to show signs of being pre-adolescent. In other words, around the same age that Destiny himself was raped. Destiny himself, who would go on to enthusiastically embrace his role as a link in the chain of sexual abuse, but direct his malice towards mentally ill women who he views as beneath him, disposable and easy targets to allow himself an easy out by simply saying they are unhinged BPD whores. Shortly after abandoning him, Destiny remarked, under a dose of mushrooms, that his favorite thing to talk about was Nathan, and curiously, he had to stay away from him, Stiny, one of his final vestiges of humanity before casting himself into the abyss of drinking. Of course, this glimmer of humanity had to come under the influence of such powerful hallucinogen that Destiny would experience full ego death and a sense of self transferred to his friend Byron, a character of great humanity and tragic pity. Staring in the mirror, Byron trying to convince Destiny that he is not Byron is a striking image. You are you, Destiny. You are not Byron. You are You do not share my humanity. And how much better it would have been if Byron's characteristics would have permanently transferred to Destiny, and he was the one who hurled himself off of a building, and Byron was still the one streaming. How much pain we would have avoided. How utilitarian. And how noble to separate himself from his son to save his son. You might say, but it is precisely ignoble. He separates himself from his son out of pure self-preservation, for to sexually abuse his son and be witness to his traumatization would be to accept his own traumatization. It is precisely due to his lack of humanity that he avoids his son. How can you make appeals to humanity and make such crass references to a child Destiny being raped constantly, says the raped DGGer, as if you could speak about this and refer to anything else. It would be like trying to describe the orbit of celestial bodies without referring to the sun. He's quoting somebody else. While a sincere attempt at psychology, this is like attempting to move Mercury into retrograde by pure force of will. On my Galileo please observe. So we have, I'm not actually sure what this is supposed to represent, but, resentment towards the unraised son, rapist, abandoned his son, short, he's just an edgy guy, maybe. Is in here too. Rejection, he is very ugly, unloved, short, okay. Hassan, okay. I'm not 100% sure what this is supposed to be about, but okay. Could it not be more clear? There is no self. Okay, like I could finish reading this. Like, this is not like an odd post on this forum about me, okay? Like, unironically, this is not an odd post on this forum. But the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of the stuff that you see coming from, say, like, Gisticle's Discord server, oh, I should have. If you're one of the people that feed me info from here, I would greatly appreciate if you could send me these DMs. But you don't even have to look that hard. But like, this is one of the reasons why you'll see a lot of this rhetoric amplified from Gisticle's Discord server. He calls me like, or Destiny the one or whatever. He is mirroring a lot of the language that's coming from Kiwi Farms, and then the other people in there do that, and then that obviously filters up to other places, and then I should have, like I said, I didn't prepare slides for today. But okay, anyway, his editor calls you. Oh, yeah, this guy does a lot. You're so bro. Ha, ha, ha. No, you're insincere. That'll teach him. Yeah, this Ryle Kittenhouse guy amplifies a ton of, like, the Kiwi Farms messaging. So does Queeman. But, yeah, like I said, if I had a slideshow today, I could put together an album of them saying this type of shit, like, a million times over. I think all of these guys, Strader Raid follows this guy as well. They're all friends, remember. You know, Strader Raid Donuts and Justical Stream. They all kind of like, yeah, but... Justicle's editor posts about your 14-year-old son in Snark subreddits, but Justicle on stream will always try to make a point out of not engaging with anything related to Nathan. This is an example of the type of obfuscation / soft endorsement that happens where Justicle still works with him and has financial ties with him, not just him as a Discord user while pretending he's above such things. Yeah, this is one of the advantages, and I think you even saw Justicle tweeting out a few days ago against my Twitter guy, Icarus, where he's like, can you give me show me an exact example of me doxing somebody? And he himself will never actually do it. I'm pretty safe when I say this, or I try to be pretty clear when I say this. The doxing doesn't usually happen, or the most unhinged stuff doesn't happen on those servers. They come from other places, and then the information always very conveniently filters up, you know? Wait, is this... okay, I don't want to go through everything. I'm just showing an example, so I'm not like crazy. I think this guy's a mod on Justical server, or maybe he used to be. Why is he suing them and going after them relentlessly? Because similar to his fellow obese freak, Stiny, he is also clouded by Infinite Hassan bad vendetta, and for the next 4,000 years wage warn him and his people There's just like a lot of like weird stuff like this, comments about my kid. Bro, using his son like this is gross. You mean his human meat shield or people shooting the meat shield? I don't know. Yeah, but... This is right now. Yeah, I think this is from I think 3 minutes ago. If you ever join these servers, anytime I start talking about these servers, all of them will light up immediately about me because all of these people are, I know it sounds crazy, but this is why I'm trying to build out this whole model so you can understand what I'm looking at here so that I don't sound crazy schizo when I'm talking to people about this. So they're always watching, right? So like this guy's easy. Some of these look like they're earlier because I think these people are sending me stuff from different time zones. But so this is this guy right here. He's reading random Kiwi Farms posts about his kid to moralize. Ryle name drop, apparently saying you're raped makes you a Kiwi farmer. So it's always like kind of like the gaslighting, like, oh, we just happen to say all these exact same things and use the exact same insults and type with the exact same mannerisms. Like a lot of them do like the exclamation mark at the end of like random statements now. Kelly does it, Justical does it. He talks that way. And then a lot of the people on Kiwi Farms do it now too. But like, yeah, it's always kind of Okay, sorry. Last one, just so you can... Snark, 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 bro. Ha ha ha. Snare. Ethan's life got torn apart by Hassan. What delusion is he living in? Bro is pretending to be the victim. Ethan talks nonstop about Hassan, of the Hassan cabal. Made multiple videos about him. Post 20 stories daily about Hassan, right? This kind of thing. That ZZ person is impersonating ZZ JStalks mod. That's actually a guy named Weed_Lemeo. Oh, that's Weed. They're changing their name actively right now on the server to troll you. His name is Weed_Lemeo. Jesus. Okay. And then just as kind of like a side story on a lot of this stuff, all of the stuff that's directed towards me is also directed at anybody in my vicinity to push them one way as well. So for instance, last night, Mantis, who's I guess an Australian, I actually don't know. I see her jump into Discord servers. I don't know if she's a streamer or not, but that Mantis person was in Pisco's Discord server chatting. And so like, I think this means these messages are deleted, but so like this was in like talking about her because because anybody that's even remotely appears to be on my side has to be targeted and destroyed. So this is talking about her, I think, because she's a parasite who joins Pisco's stream anytime Destiny's being exposed for the piece of shit he is to shift the narrative and gaslight Pisco into thinking he's the crazy one. I know Pisco doesn't like banning criticism or people on the other side, but this Mantis parasite is so insufferable. I can't stand her voice. Holy shit. Didn't she send unsolicited nudes to Tomfoolery or something? I might have my story wrong. Tomfoolery was like a huge target for Gistigal and Queeman and all these other like weirdos, and they kind of like ran the same game on Tom that they're trying to run on me. Or maybe you could say are successfully running on me, but Tom obviously doesn't have the same platform to fight back against it. Talking about Darius. Darius spent $4,000 he got from last fundraiser for the lawyer on a trashy spike. We're doing a fundraiser for that. What are you watching? Darius stream, is he in jail? I only watch Ryle's market replacement of Darius. I don't understand how people hate this server. Every time I come in, you guys are talking about inconsequential nonsense and weird fetishes. This woman who used to like me doesn't like me anymore because of exposed for being an ultra creep sex criminal. What a bitch. True. Who draws Destiny's new intros? Is it Nina? Is Nina still on the plantation? So before I said, when I saw a message yesterday when somebody was like, oh, what about, or who's this person? And I'm saying that might not necessarily be like a call for doxing or whatever. These types of messages, this is a call for identification and doxing. When people ask like, oh, who's this person? Are they still like in that community? The goal, remember, is to target and then excise and target and isolate and target and like remove. That's always the way that this works. If anybody has that message from Hutch like 3 days ago, that's like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. If anybody remembers what I'm talking about, you can post that message and I can just move on from this. Oh yeah. So like all of this stuff is by design. Oh, are they talking about the Ukrainian Anna person here? I know people have sympathy for her and all, but you can still be a victim of war and choose not to support a sex criminal. She did well when she posted that she was disgusted by what Destiny did on Reddit, but then it seems like she walked it back completely. I remember seeing her calling Pixie a gold digger at one point. This kosher Kathy person is insane. I didn't mind her until her Orbit return call, where she was smearing Pixie as a gold digger. I remember when they did that to compensate for watching pirated movies in chat, but then either the Cum Guzzler 1 or the Cum Guzzler 2 banned the charity. Imagine being RTB and your biggest issue is banning an anti-malaria charity. Are all these girls? A lot of this is played into by girls. Unfortunately, I don't know why, if women are just more prone to gossipy stuff or these online spaces, but unfortunately, a lot of it is, yeah. They're trying so hard to gaslight Pisco and everyone that Pisco is being controlled by Queeman and Gistigal in his chat. Does Gistigal even chat on his stream? Remember, they always are careful in that plausible deniability, right? I don't think Gistigal will ever go on Pisco's stream, but he definitely talks to Queeman, and Queeman definitely posts in chat. You know how I said before? Somebody sent me this, and I was like, why did Pisco call me a sped? That was like so weird. I've never, ever, it's been like a decade since I've heard somebody say that. And then somebody sent me
a bunch of Discord like incel sped freaks. It was leaked by some random Discord sped. Okay, guys. Nothing for the last 2 minutes, sped. Fucking listen. Involved in you, sped.
Apparently, this is something that Queeman says a ton. So, like, I don't know if
you're a sped, dude. I
don't know if Pisco's just started watching a lot of Queeman's content, or maybe Queeman typed sped in his chat, he picked it up, or maybe somebody picked it up who picked it up. But like, you can see that the, you see what I mean when I say like the interflow between all of these people?
Do you really want this sped to reproduce?
Somebody sent me this whole last thing. Apparently there's a super common, I guess I say super common, relatively common, 110 clips found of Queeman this is just a word that he says a lot.
He admitted, I spurged out. We got there. We did get there.
Sorry, okay. But don't worry about that as much yet. We'll get to that. Hold on. Does Justical even chat on the stream? Because Destiny thinks he does for some reason. Queeman just sends ape emotes and corrected the record on a misquote once. For the most part, there are still the ultra parasocials who haven't, because Destiny told Pisco, I love you, before hanging up the call this morning. Maybe because the people outside DGG are the target of his campaigns? Justical is a doxing Discord server. As long as we have doxers in here, let me correct myself. A doxer, we all know who he is. But why didn't Pisco kick Mantis from the call? Oh, this was them watching, I guess, last night. DGGers are coming in waves to Hutch reviewing Destiny's call to make sure he sticks to their narrative. So something that's very strange, when you see this like obsession about narrative, this took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. The reason why they use that word so much is because this is what they want to do. Their goal is they have to be able to rewrite history or to write current history on whatever's going on to prove that every single thing that's happening is part of some like top-down conspiracy to control a story, because that is what they do in their space, right? So if somebody like thinks that like, oh, I think Destiny was right in that combo, and then they go into a Discord server or a YouTube chat to argue it, then they'll say, that's a person who's doing narrative control. This person is running around trying to change the narrative. It's like, no, the person might just have an opinion on the thing, you know? Oh my God, wait. Remember how much Destiny and DGG virtue signaled about Hassan not moderating the Ethan Klein hate in his chat? Now they're openly hating on Pisco, and Destiny's mods don't give a fuck, right? The weird like rephrasing things. Like my issue with Hassan not moderating the Ethan Klein is that it's not that they were being mean to him, it's that they were literally being unhingedly anti-Semitic and personal about him, right? That weird fucking cartoon that they made about Ethan Klein's wife, or calling Ethan Klein like a Nazi, or saying that you know, he was like pro-Zionist, pro-genocide. Like that was the issue, you know? Wasn't that originally Mr. Girl thing as well? Yes, Mr. Girl did a lot of this kind of stuff. We'll get there. Okay. We don't need to. Jesus, there's a lot of stuff here. Oh my God. Ha 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 ha, the cope. It's not Destiny, it's everyone else. Oh, this obsession of I dream of Pikas. I don't know if this guy's a fan or anti-fan or what, but a lot of people on my Kiwi Farms thread talk about this guy too. Blav hates this guy. This guy, I don't know why. I don't know if they know each other personally, but I think Blav is convinced that I Dream of Pikas has a Kiwi Farms account. I don't know why, but for some reason, Blav hates this guy. They go back and forth at each other. But God, the irony is lost on these people. Lol, doing DDS memes. Definitely not a cult, guys. We're so confident we're not in a cult. We're going to meme about being in a cult. This is like 12 levels of irony. Jesus, this is a lot of shit. I don't know. I'm not going through all this. Okay, anyway, we got this. Okay. So, and then just the thing. So like the ultimate goal of stuff like this. So when you see this, this means you've like a job well done. Okay. So when Hutch is saying things, and again, I'm not blaming Hutch on any of this. Okay. When Hutch is saying things like, I didn't want to be a part of this debate because of the toxic nature of the current Destiny discourse. The most deranged people are targeting me currently because of their beef with Destiny. I have zero desire to dip my toes into any of that, right? This is the goal, is to make a person as radioactive and as isolated as possible, because if you are in any part of this person's atmosphere, people are going to like JDam the fuck out of you, okay? Their goal is to, yeah, that's their goal. Okay. Is there anything else that I need? Queeman was just now in Hutch chat telling him he was an orbiter. I don't think I need to prove any more of that. I feel like I've done enough. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, okay, so what I'm doing on stream today, right? I haven't done much of this in the past. I've started to, I think over the past week. Kelly memes too. She was the most unhinged. Oh, shit. This was a long time ago, wasn't it? This isn't recent, is it? I remember when Kelly said this because they were mad that my girlfriend wasn't publicly disowning me over the whole Pixie Substack. This was back when Kelly was like, oh yeah, February 21st. This is back when Kelly is posting daily and is a huge part of the Gistial server, okay? I officially don't feel bad for Destiny adjacent people being doxxed anymore. I do not care. This was on February 21st, okay? So remember this when you see people saying things. This is why, and I will restate this so you don't have to tease it out or anything. Is Destiny okay with doxing? I don't give a f. That's why I said it on the Willie Mack interview thing when he interviewed me, and he was like, how do you feel about, doxing? I was like, I don't care about any of these people because this is unhinged, okay? If you want to dox me and swap me, okay, I guess waste the cop time or get me killed if you want. I guess that's the goal. But when you start going for literally every single person in my circle, that's insane. But anyone associated with Destiny is not an innocent party anymore aside from his family, okay? That's unhinged, in my opinion. And then the constant obsession. This is March 22nd. The constant obsession with my girlfriend. I literally only called the cam girl sucking Destiny's the Dildo Max 9000 for $30 a pop a whore. I do not call most women lympheo, but this one, yes, quite literally. And just like she would just repost stuff from any other lolcow thread she would see from any other thing. But yeah, but anyway, okay. All right, okay. So we have all of this stuff from these places. Okay, so we saw some Kiwi Farm shit, that used to kind of be more private, but now we have like this weird like snark thing that gets amplified into all of these side Discord spaces that shows up with all of these like weird streamer people that filters up into all of like your medium streamer people and your unhinged people like Bad Empanada. And then finally, it's now it's showing up directly on Hassan's stream. And it's very, very hard when there's a system like this. It's very, very hard in a system like this to point to any single actor and say, you're doing something bad, you know? And this whole kind of like network kind of works by design like that. As long as you don't openly host anything on your platform, you always have some form of plausible deniability. You can always ban people that are directly doing the bad thing itself. Like you always have the ability to say that like, well, I'm not in charge of that. I don't do that. However, I would say that it is curious. No, I wouldn't say it's curious. It is by design that all of this stuff only shows up on one side, right? There are no side Destiny servers with a whole bunch of unhinged anti-fans that are like A-logging Gisticle and Queeman and all these people, which is also one of the reasons why I basically have no ability to fight on the same level, although that's not even fulfilling for me because like why the fuck would I care if they're getting A-logged and shit? And why they can kind of operate with so much impunity. But they can operate with impunity because they enjoy it, because it's part of what they do. This is part of their content model. Which is one of the things that I said, like I don't have the tools as much to fight against these people because like this stream that I'm doing right now, this is like okay because I'm talking about it that much, but like I can't do this every single day. If this was 2 years ago, we could make content out of this every single day. I would just load up the Imager album and we would just look at like, oh, what are they talking about today over and over and over again. And then you could do, and then you could just do that, right? Oh yeah, so like you see Gisticle here, like making the same comments. This is the new account that he made. I think his last one on Discord got banned for child something. Turn on stream. I don't need to prove anymore. I feel like I've done enough. If I watch whatever happened here, will this seem less schizophrenic? Yeah, like this kind of stuff. It's just fun times. Isn't he ban evading then? Gisticle? He might be. You should report the account anytime you see it. I would say. Same thing with no, I'll just say that for now. Okay. Where was I? I think, is this all I need to build out and then to talk about the Pisco stuff? Somebody said that Hassan actually co-opted my explanation here, and then he tries to pass this off as though something he's identified on my side. Is this, I don't want to risk like derailing for 10 minutes to watch this though, if that's, is that true?
Debating, duking out in the marketplace of ideas.
Oh, also, keep this in mind as well. Oh, me. I can point to one big reason. So I said I wouldn't speculate before, like, why does this show up on the left and not, my side as much? I'm not sure. I can actually point to one big reason why it does this. One of the big reasons why all of this weird A-logging and personal obsessive happens, okay, is because none of the people on the left generally want to argue about the issues, okay? That's why a lot of this devolves into weird personal attacks and weird obsessive A-logging to try to go after somebody in a way that's not really relevant to anything they say, right? So for instance, if I have a position on Israel-Palestine, the reason is not because of whatever arguments I've built up, despite the fact that you can watch dozens or hundreds of hours of me on stream, researching, debating, talking, taking notes, doing whatever. It's because I'm like a Mossad agent who was just here to try to other people and manipulate them and do it. Like, it always devolves into this like very weird, cringy, like personal attack stuff. And Hassan absolutely, obsessively plays into this. He does it a lot with Ethan too, where if you watch Ethan's content nuke, if I remember correctly, I don't know if Ethan's content nuke had any personal shit in it. Maybe it did a little bit, but generally all of it was like pretty substantial or substantive. Like, it's all just about like, these are the crazy things Hassan has said. I think it's pretty wacky. And then Hassan's counter to that is like, Ethan is mentally unwell. Ethan has, he's like become obsessed with me. He's just posting about me all the time. Somebody linked yesterday. I don't know what video this came from. I haven't watched this yet either, so maybe this isn't that bad. I'm not sure.
Stuff was my friends who went on Birthright being like, yeah, at some point during Birthright, they brought in a bunch of IDF soldiers to sort of join us. And I noticed they were all really, really attractive. And I was like, is Hasbara looks maxing?
Well, I mean, Birthright is like that's the purpose of it, right? Is to try to get young American Jews to go and like stay in Israel and become Israeli and get an Israeli wife.
Just as a heads up, if you're European and listening to this, one thing that's like kind of a little bit mindfucky or weird, if you're thinking like, do they really do this in Israel? Do they bring in hot people to seduce like younger people? This is hard to understand if you're European, maybe not if you're British or German, but from an American perspective, if we see somebody whose BMI isn't over 35, they're automatically considered like really attractive to us. And in the Middle East, there's just not as many fat people. So,
and hopefully settle in Israel.
I know at least one story of someone who I went to high school with meeting an IDF soldier on Birthright, and they are now married. So that's better. That's better Hasbara than the Nelk boys.
Let me tell you, I know someone like that too. We had a podcast together.
Oh,
we no longer have a podcast, but it is common, yes. But also on the other side, you have Adam Friedland, who also went on Birthright and did not have a good experience, it seems. Or even Sam Cedar, who said he didn't have a good experience on Birthright. So I guess that's the trajectory. You can go either direction.
I gotta say, I'm very glad.
okay. Implying that I guess Ethan got abducted by a Mossad Hasbara wife, and that's why he married Hila.
He's some lawyer guy named Pisco or something.
What is Birthright? Despite what people think about all the Jews around the world being aligned ideologically, the further right you go in Israel, Jews don't want Jews living in other countries. They want all the Jews to go back to Israel. Okay, unless you're really rich in another country, send them money. They want you to go back and move back to Israel. So if you have any connection whatsoever to any Jewish ethnicity, I think they sponsor you for a 1 or 2 week free trip to Israel, where they try to show you like, oh my God, look at how amazing Tel Aviv is, and look at how cool. Oh, come and look at these, and like hang out with cool people and hot people. Oh, do this. Oh, don't you want to move to Israel? And that's like Birthright. They sponsor basically a free trip for Jewish people, and if you can prove you have any amount of Jewishness in you at all, so that hopefully they can convince you to go and move back to the country.
Part 2, Destiny, Thought Crimes, and Hassan Derangement.
Okay, so this is part of the this was part of Hassan reading a post on Pisco subreddit from an account that also posts on DGG Snark, Lonerbox, and Hassan subreddit, and now also on Pisco subreddit, right? When I pointed that out, that person deleted their account. You can still see like archives of it, but this is the account. Now also, remember what I said before, okay? So some of this information is coming from these weird Discord areas. Instead of filtering this up through streamers, they're posting it like on a Reddit, and then now Hassan is directly amplifying a lot of this stuff, right? So all of it feeds into each other. That's the whole point, you know?
Syndrome. I had actually looked into this a few days ago because I heard Not So Erudite talking about Hassan, and she repeated the same bad faith interpretation as well. So basically what happens is I say something, Destiny cuts it in half, chops it up, immediately frames it in the most negative way possible, and extends it to the most like extreme hypothetical that I'm not advocating for, even if I'm directly knowing full well that someone is going to do a bad faith interpretation, even if I actually, ahead of the dishonest interpretation, literally spell out exactly what I want, right? Literally spell out exactly what I want and exactly what I think is the appropriate thing to do in this scenario. It doesn't even matter because he has a network.
Does Hassan know that this process is happening, and is he specifically intentionally directing it? I don't believe that Hassan is directing it, no. But I think he knows that it's happening, and he absolutely takes advantage of it. One of the annoying things about propaganda and conspiracies that I try to stress to people when we talk about like real world conspiracies is like the real world corruption is usually stuff where every player along the path is incentivized to make bad decisions. So when it comes to the 2007-2008 financial crisis, that was not just one party up. It was every single person and actor involved along the chain making decisions that they kind of had to, and they were self-interested to make along the chain. If you were a homeowner, why would you not sell your house and buy a new one when interest rates were at all-time lows, when homes were appreciating in value so insanely rapidly? There's no reason not to go out and buy a home. You might as well, even if you couldn't afford it, it didn't matter because you know that the cost of that house would double or triple, and you could just sell it or refinance it or do a home equity loan or whatever and pay for your payments that way, right? If you were a small bank, why would you not issue crazy mortgages to people without even verifying income or assets when you know that as soon as you sell that loan, as soon as you give a loan to somebody, you don't even have to hold the loan on your books. Maybe it's not the best loan in the world, but you can sell that loan upstream to an investment bank, right? Let's say that you wanted to be a good bank and not do that. Well, guess what? Now you have no customers and all your employees are going to quit because you've lost all your money because every other bank is giving these types of mortgages, right? So if you're an individual, you should buy a new home. Interest rates are low. Prices on homes are constantly appreciating. Yeah, like crazy. Yeah, go for it. If you're a small bank, yeah, issue reckless loans. You don't even have to hold it on your books. You can sell it upstream to an investment bank. And if you're an investment bank, why are you buying these loans? Because you can repackage them and you can sell them to investors in mortgage-backed securities, or you can chop them up and put them into CDOs. And, are they the most responsible financial products in the world? Maybe not, but it doesn't matter because the appreciating underlying asset is happening so much that even if like a lot of these loans fail or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can repo the houses, you can sell them. The housing market is exploding. Like every single person along the chain here is highly incentivized to do the things that they're doing, right? These are the types of conspiracies that people need to look out for in real life, not conspiracies that are like one crazy evil man behind the shadows tweaking, everything that's going on, right? That's not usually how it works, right? I don't think that Hassan is the mastermind behind all of this. Kiwi farms and these forums existed way before any of this like crazy online shit. Way before the internet. Anti-fans, am I making this up? I think that anti-fan was a term that was initially popularized, I want to say in South Korea, was when it was South Korea, I think, had one of the first online cultures where people were actually celebrities would sue anti-fans because they were so deranged. And this was back in like 2012, but this was way before it blew up on like other parts of the internet. It was like 5 years ahead at least before this stuff made it to the internet, right? So, so this stuff all came from it. But like if you're a snarker, right? Well, you've got a ton of people that will upvote your post. You got a ton of people that agree with you. Cool, right? If you want to like a Justical Discord server, you've got a ton of other people to hang out with. You've got like content to watch. You've got a community of people that all have some ideological conformity, right? I'm showing you a million pictures. You can like chat with each other. They all each other. They all DM each other. They all like have fun with each other. They watch the same streams. They hang out in the stream chats. They all go brigade the same streams. They all brigade the same Reddit threads. They all copy the same from Kiwi Farms, right? It's like all of these different actors along the way are all incentivized to do what they do. If you're Frogan, if you're Denims, if you're Mike from PA, if you're that the black dude who said he was going to kill me, any of these people, you're also incentivized, right? You don't have to go and dig for any new information about a political enemy. You literally just copy it from the anti-fan communities, and then you just repeat it verbatim, because why not? And then people like you for it, and then people like Hassan amplify it all. Like every single actor along the way here is all incentivized to do what they do. They don't need a crazy, they don't need like a crazy ringleader or anything. So I'm just stressing that. I don't think Hassan is like a crazy ringleader for any of this.
Literally spell out exactly what I want and exactly what I think is the appropriate thing to do in this scenario. It doesn't even matter because he has a network of other content creators, including like these apolitical orbiters that also take that out of context snippet and just go along with that narrative and pump it to anyone that will listen. And then that's how.
So see, oh, this is funny. So Hassan does actively consume my stuff, or if I'm being very charitable, maybe he doesn't actively consume it. Maybe he has other people that feed him like information from my stream, but he's about to repeat that same propaganda model that I've described now and pretend that it happens on my side. However, what happened with the Pixie Substack drop? Like how many people in the commentary community made videos about me being a fucking rapist, or videos about me being however many other crazy things, like going over all of Destiny's evil history, right? Like these are the people that you say are all in my league. These are my propaganda amplifiers. Like he can try to point to the same that I'm pointing at. However, he has no evidence for any of it. Show me this, right? Demonstrate any of it. Show me all of these cross posters. One concept that I will say, let me build out another quick thing here. These are all just like things I've learned online. I think a lot of content creators intuitively know this stuff, but they either don't talk about it or they pretend not to know it because they don't want to deal with it, okay? This is something I've learned, unfortunately, multiple times. I've had to learn this lesson a lot, but if I stand here and I'm attacking people, we'll put a sword. That's not a sword. And I'm attacking people over here and over here and over here and over here. Okay. The impression that you can get if you're not savvy or if you're not paying attention to your community, okay, the impression is, oh, cool. Like, as I attack these people, I'm showing people where I stand, and I have like a lot of people that are, like standing, right here alongside me. Like, this is good. And this took me both Vosh and Hassan to learn. One thing that I realized is if you're constantly hitting in one direction, what you actually start to do is you actually start to pick up people that are way over here too. Okay. So like all the posts on my subreddit before my big Hassan split who were like, oh, I think Destiny's actually a socialist, LOL. Like Destiny's more of a socialist than Hassan, LOL, like that, right? I kind of thought these were jokes. I didn't really realize this, but I realized it's like, oh, if I'm going to hit in one direction pretty often, and I'm going to start to pick up this stuff, every now and then I need to like turn and also hit in this direction because I need my audience to understand where I stand on things, and I need these people to understand that I'm not an ally, okay? That this is not, just because I might be hating these people right now, doesn't mean I don't also fucking hate you. And doing this is incredibly important if you care about having a fan base that's ideologically aligned with you, and if you care about propagating values out into the world that you think are important. So for instance, even though people have accused me of this, it would be really easy for me to allow my fan base to do the most unhinged attacks on people that I don't like, right? And I could just sit here and say, like, I can't control them. I can't do anything about that. Well, I don't know if they do that there. I don't know, right? But like in multiple stages of my community development, like I'm taking like pretty strong stances against like, we're not going to say that Lycan's political views just come from Aaron, okay? We're not doing that, okay? Or we're not going to sit here and say like Pisco is not a real lawyer, okay? We're not doing that. Or we're not going to, like we try to do like the don't attack this. I think you guys are being unhinged on, Brittany Simon or Lav, not because they're wrong. They can be wrong and they can be very hateable, but sometimes I feel like you guys are a little sexist when you do it. Not a little sexist, mega sexist, which I stand by to this day. But like these are things that like I try to do this pretty often. Delete that I just said that. I do this incredibly often so that my community at all times, as much as is possible, is like a reflection of the things that I feel are important and are a reflection of my values in terms of how I associate with other people and how I, like the stuff that I present to the world. Like what would I post or what would I do? And like we've talked about this publicly a lot. Sometimes maybe we go too far, sometimes we don't go far enough, but like it's a thing that I'm actually always focused on. When you get people who pretend just not to be aware of that at all, that is highly sus to me. So let me give a grounded example of this. Let's say there was a woman, and we'll call her Emily. And let's say that I know that in my community, it's really common to imply that like Emily doesn't shower, right? And let's say that I don't like that type of personal attack personally. Like I don't think we should necessarily do that, but like that's like a thing that was like pervasive in my community. If I was having a debate with Emily, okay, I'm not going to be making comments like, "Oh, you're such a stinky, smelly loser. Like get the fuck away from me," because I know that when I say that, I am hardcore signaling and reaffirming and amplifying and causing to be more pervasive all the people that are carrying that line of attack. Does that make sense? One thing that I wrote down here, and I'll keep coming back to this, is during the Red Pill arc, if you watch me engage with females, if you watch me engage with women, one thing that people would say constantly is that I do a lot of negging because I do a lot of banter with people. But if you watch the way that I engage with people, women or men, I do a lot of banter and I go really hard, but I go really hard on things that do not matter that much to the person, right? So you can go back and watch me do any type of like flirty behavior with women, any type of banter with guys, anything at all. And I'm going to be like going in, like on, might be their league skills, might be the gaming, some argument, whatever. But like with guys, I have to think more individually because it's harder to be sexist towards men. But like with women, you're never ever going to see me like bantering with a woman where I'm making jokes about like her age, about her weight, or calling her like a, right? Because these are just like in general, these are highly inflammatory areas, and I know that if I go there, there's like my fan base is like 90% men. I know that if I hit on any of those three things, that's gonna be like, ah! It's gonna be like, holy shit, we've opened the floodgates on that, Same thing with Pisco, right? I already don't like saying, I feel like he's acting in bad faith, because once you've thrown out the bad faith accusation, you're kind of like you're kind of like destroying their ability to respond or engage with them in good faith. Because now you're saying like you're just lying. Like, really, that's what bad faith is saying. You're lying. But like one thing I never, ever, ever attack, I hope I haven't, I don't think I have, and I think I even stopped Dan from doing this, I don't ever attack Pisco on his credentials, because for some reason that became like a talking point in my community where people are like, where people are like, oh, I don't even think Pisco is a real lawyer. Somebody in my subreddit posted before, like, he's only worked at a law firm for 5 years. Like, that's nothing. And it's like, this motherfucker worked for, I'm not gonna dox him, but like, bro, that if you know where he graduated from, you know where he worked in New York City, that's a retarded statement to make, okay? The fact that he can even work for 5 years in one of these law firms and do content online full-time and do whatever he was doing on the side for me, that is an insane workload, okay? When you're trying to bill like 70, 80 hours a week and do all the online and everything else, that's a wild workload. And the idea that people were like using there's some kind of attack is like, that's unhinged to me. But also, because I know those attacks are like, I know that they're bubbling up in my community, and I know that people want to make them because it's tempting to go there. Like, these are the things that I'll probably hit back on the most because that doesn't represent my values. That's not what I want people to attack somebody for. Yeah, okay, sorry. So I'm pointing that out because somehow Hasan is just so good at being either completely ignorant of this or just amplifying all of those attacks. And there's a reason why they're so pervasive in his community, or at the least all the communities that happen to be around him. That's not an accident, you know?
How you arrive at like all of these crazy conclusions that people have about my Asmund, does anyone exactly the same thing with you? Yeah, there's a bunch of like relatively large content creators who also participate in this.
Like, look at the conflation here of all these different people. When was the last time Mike from PA attacked Hasan? When was the last time Jessica and Queeman attacked Hasan? They don't anymore. They're like mega Hasan simps. When is the last time that that any of Hasan's work, like, never, right? But like, look at Asmongold and me. I think most of our interactions recently, I think, have been overwhelmingly negative, right? I'm pretty sure we've just gone in and each other. Look at me and Tectone have been like really negative online. But this like weird, so what he's doing is he's co-opted my models. He's co-opted my models, claiming that this exists on my side, but he has no proof for this, right? And then at the same time, he does have the toolkit to fight all of this stuff because he loves getting personal. He loves making these weird Hasbara, Mossad, personal attacks, sex pest comms. He loves these types of attacks. So he has the toolkit for it because he monetizes it and he enjoys doing that type of content. And he has the fan base for it because his fans slurp this stuff up too. They love it. They love it. They love it. They love it. If you remember, because Hasan's content, I think, has meaningfully changed in this direction. If you remember, I want to say it was like a couple years ago, he used to get pushback from his audience for talking about me so much. Do you remember that there was a point in time where Hasan was bringing me up so much on stream, his audience started to post in the chat like, bro, like, why are we talking about Destiny again? Like, do we really need to do this? And in his Discord, some of those comments would pop up too, where it's like, another day of Hasan talking about Destiny, and all those people are gone now, right? So he has morphed his fan base, and he has taken out this toolbox to engage in exactly this type of behavior that is amplifying all of this kind of like chain of attack. And he is pretending that all these people over here that he just never seems to have anything to say about, he's just pretending they don't exist or they're just there incidentally. But I argue that, especially if you're Hasan, you've been here long enough, you know all of this stuff works. I would argue that this is by design. Now, not by design in that he is planning and plotting all of it from the top, but by design in that he knows all of what's happening. He will gladly play into it because it benefits him so much.
Which is, understandable why so many people have enmity towards someone like myself, because they just don't know what my worldview is. They've only seen my worldview through the most negative lens that they could possibly see.
Remember too, also, like, I actually get frustrated for people seeing things from me incorrectly, the same way that Hasan does. However, there's two different things going on. One, okay, look, I have a 7-hour VOD of Hasan here open, and I'm going to watch this with no edits or no cuts, all right? When Hasan is watching stuff of me, and I'm sure you can make a compilation of it, he's literally opening like the Tiny V Tiny Twitter account or like these clipped channels of me, but he's accusing me of doing that when I don't do that, and he does do that. But I'm saying, like, I actually get annoyed by the same thing that Hasan gets annoyed about, but what is the number one solution to people taking you out of context and misunderstanding your point of view? Does anybody know? What's the number one solution? What's the easiest way to overcome that? What's the easiest way to not have people do that? is to talk to them. Exactly. And that's another key difference too, is Hassan avoids confrontation like the fucking plague. This was kind of a thing that I spoke about for Vosh a lot. I'm borrowing from my incredibly poor understanding of this concept of like the simulacra, okay? That what'll happen is there will be a thing that gets spoken about, okay? So this might be something that comes from the tiny v tiny Twitter thing, okay? There will be like a thing that somebody speaks about, but they're never actually looking at the thing itself, okay? They're looking at like an edited cut version of that thing, all right? So you have a thing, and then you kind of have like a morphing of this thing into something worse, okay? So maybe it's like, oh, here's a tiny v tiny account where Destiny's talking about how like, I think that in if Israel versus Palestine, I think maybe the Palestinians should be genocided, right? And then this morphs into being like, oh, Destiny is like pro-genocide. And then this becomes like a whole thing where I am like who am I as a person, right? I am a pro-Israeli, paid by the Mossad, pro-genocidal person who hates the Palestinians, loves Israelis, loves Netanyahu, all this. And whenever you think about like, well, what is our justification for this, right? Whenever you're thinking about who I am as a person in these communities, what is your reference, right? What are you referring back to? I don't know if simulacra means in French copies without originals or copies without reference or whatever, or if that's just Baudrillard's term for it. But when you think back to like, well, what were the horrible things that Destiny said? You're never actually thinking back to my content. This is never happening, okay? What you're actually thinking back to is this thing of me that you saw initially, right? And you've seen me go through so many conversations like this where somebody's like, oh, I watched you get in that Finkelstein debate. And it's like, really? What did you see that you disagreed with me on in that? Okay, I didn't watch the whole thing. It's like, okay, did you go fast forward and watch part of it? It's like, no, what I actually watched was, if I'm lucky, he watched this thing, but more than likely, he's not even referring to this thing. He's not even referring to this false copy. He's referring to the morphing of it, of other people saying like, Destiny got destroyed in that Finkelstein debate. Destiny got destroyed in this debate, and he got destroyed because of this purpose, or I'm sorry, because of this thing that he said. He's not, and then those people that are referring to me getting destroyed, they're not even referring to the actual debate itself. They're referring to this thing, and then this is like the thing that I began, right? Now, all of this to say, the easiest way to collapse this whole model is to have a debate with somebody. That's why I like debating and arguing with people. It's like, oh, okay, let's just find out exactly where we stand. Because when we go to have a debate, now this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. You just have to contend with me. I'm right here. I can tell you exactly what I believe, what I feel, what I think, and we can hash it out, you know? So whenever somebody's complaining about being misrepresented, but they are ardently avoiding all forms of confrontation, it's because they want to keep this model alive in their audience's brain as much as possible. It's like essential to have this fantastical false construction or caricature of, or reference with no original that you've concocted in the minds of your audience that you can constantly refer back to. And it becomes this kind of like this weird reference to this almost like this illusory, non-existent doppelganger of yourself. Of like, remember when Destiny said that thing? Remember when Destiny did that thing? Remember when this guy said that thing, or this guy said this? Like, they think they do, but they don't actually remember it all. They remember Hassan talking about it happening, or they remember about somebody making a clip about it happening. They never actually saw the original thing itself. Some of this will remind me about this. Some of this will appear later when I talk about like Pisco's chat stuff. Okay, but we'll get there. Sorry, let me just finish watching this real quick. Okay, I know this sounds like super schizo, but. I think I've done a decent job so far. Like, I can show you all of this happening in real time. I can demonstrate every single part of this happening in real time. And I think you might even be able to argue that a lot of this sort of stuff, it's kind of funny because I joke a lot about how if you want to analyze Trump, analyze him as a YouTuber. And I think there's a lot of insight into how he functions there. I think a lot of the conservative world also works pretty similarly here. For instance, do you remember when Kamala Harris said that she would give healthcare to trans prisoners or whatever? Everybody remembers that. But like, do you? Do you remember giving a speech? It's like, well, no, I think maybe Joe Rogan talking about it. It's like, what is Joe Rogan talking about there? Well, somebody came on a show and did that, right? It's like, do you know when she made that statement? I think it was 2019. Oh, right. Or like, you remember the Hunter Biden laptop? So I was like, yes, I remember that. Holy. Remember when they censored that on Twitter? It's like, yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, how long did they censor that for? I don't know, it's so long, months or whatever. It's like, really? How do you know how long they censored it for? It's like, well, I remember them censoring it. It's like, do you remember them censoring it? Do you remember a point in time ever where you actually couldn't access that story? You literally couldn't find it? It's like, well, no, but it must have been banned somewhere on Twitter. How long? I don't know. And you actually don't have, what you have is a false copy in your mind that didn't show up by accident. It's an intentional propaganda model that's created. And then the actual answer to that question, for anybody that's not following along, is 24 hours, or less than 24 hours. That New York Post linked to the original story had a warning on it because they didn't want to, they used the hack materials policy where they were debating on whether or not they should allow the links. It was less than 24 hours.
And they use Reddit for this propaganda. They use Reddit for this this purpose because Reddit is like so easily brigaded.
He says this because he's very ass mad right now about LSF. Now, Hassan is for a long time on LSF. Not because of me, although partially because of me, but because of his fight with Asmongold. Asmongold's Reddit community has grown a lot. They don't necessarily like me, but they definitely like me more than Hassan. And Asmongold and XQC's community will absolutely amplify any attack that I make on Hassan. So from Hassan's perspective, he kind of gets on LSF, which is true. However, the lefties dominate all the rest of Reddit. All of the snark subs are lefties. All of the, like the H3H3 sub, my sub, you have to police for these people constantly. And for anybody that took place in, anybody that was active in any of these communities knew that all of these online political communities got hardcore flipped to either lefties or Nazis. And the majority of them ended up going lefty because a lot of the Nazi ones got banned. Like every default sub is like a hard lefty sub now.
And this effort post was yeeted. Like, look at this. This effort post with 39 upvotes was destroyed. The account.
So like Hassan doesn't even know, or he does know and he's lying about it, that this account was deleted by the person because I called them out for the propaganda model that I mentioned. But Hassan's even twisting that into trying to pretend that somehow this supports his argument. Really, it plays in the opposite. He deleted this account because I called it out, right? Or do you remember a long time ago when Hassan called out that my chat was fabricating messages from Hassan's chat to make it worse than it actually was? The funny thing about that was that Hassan was half right and that somebody in my chat actually did do that, but the people who discovered that were my chat because somebody in my chat tried to cross-reference the messages from that doctored photo from Hassan's chat logs, and then we realized we banned that guy from our community, like live on stream in 8K, 120 FPS, 20 megabits per second. Like we saw, they were like, bro, you can't just make Hassan's chat. We banned him. But Hassan likes to pretend that he discovered that and his community discovered it and is so unhinged or whatever.
DGGL.
Oh, sorry.
Account that posted it was deleted, and the post itself was deleted by the person who made this post. How crazy is that?
Sorry, hold on. If you just covered politics from now on in this tone and clarity, you wouldn't have any problems. The issue is that I don't think so because of, if it was like back in the day when these people were totally sectioned off, I would agree with you. But now that they're so synergized with all of these other communities, I just don't know how you can do it without dealing with it. But also remember, because I just want to talk about politics. When was the last time we did like politics with other streamers? Usually it's all drama. Even if I'm covering the news, like it's all drama now, right? Remember, not only does this model exist, I don't have the tools. I don't like to do drama content like this. Like I'm doing it now because I need to point it out so people are aware of it. And I don't have the fan base that even has like as much of the appetite for doing this. Again, we can do it now because it's kind of like an exceptional stream. But like if I did this every day, I would remember if I started to do this type of stuff every day, I would go back to breeding these types of parasocial fans. And I don't want to do that. I want to move off of it. But there is no more politics that's done in these communities. A lot of it is now like interpersonal drama. I will clarify though, let me say this for like the live and learn stuff. Those guys I would consider for their stream and everything, they do politics. Like when Josiah talks about wanting to cozy up to leftists and stuff, like I think when Josiah says that, I think it's because Josiah genuinely doesn't know. Josiah, he genuinely has no idea how crazy the online left people are because Josiah just like covers the news and like does a lot of like real world like political coverage and shit. He doesn't know any of these insane unhinged people online. When Econo Boy says that he identifies as a socialist, I don't think Econo Boy has any idea how crazy and unhinged a lot of these like far lefty communities are. He's like, oh, I'm a socialist. I think that's okay. People like Matt Brunig identify that way. And it's like, okay, sure. And then for Pisco, I think unfortunately, maybe it's even my fault, but because of my connection to me and then Pisco's friends that are now like in this world, Pisco's kind of sort of getting sucked in that direction. And because of me trying to have commentary on the live and learn stuff, now all of that old baggage that I have, all of the obsessive people, all of them are dragged along with me, unfortunately. But yeah, I just want to be clear there because I don't think that live and learn, they do not fit into this model. Live and learn is not like a Denims, Frogan, Mike from PA, Bad Enough. Live and learn is not here. Live and learn is a new platform that these people are trying to incorporate into their model. And that's what's happening right now. That's the stage that they're in, is like the incorporation stage. I'm sure you could like draw stages of this, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Hold on.
29-minute in that YouTube vid was linked to see how D poisons the well and misconstrues your point. Let's take a look. Is this it?
Oh, was that it? Is Hassan done explaining my propaganda model to his audience?
To do more of a social democracy, is that something that a socialist country should move towards, or should there be resistance to the government to keep
Like, look at how kind of wacky this is. Like, Hassan is a big boy. Why do you need this like twink random British dipshit to do your political commentary for you on your ex-podcast co-host? Can you not do this yourself? Like, why the f are you even watching this? It's kind of weird, you know? How is it that Hutch picks up on this immediately while not being part of your community, but Pisco has been here for 3 to 4 years and doesn't see the behavior pattern? Okay, I think we're done with this. Okay, I think we can get to the more centered on Pisco part. Okay, all right. Coming back to all of this, okay, so all of our models, okay, we've got our false copies that are created to slander and attack people. We've got our, like this intentionally ignoring, you know, like, who are these guys? I don't know anything about them. You know, I just happen to never say anything about them, and I say a lot of the same that they say about you. All right, so we've got like this kind of thing at work. We've got like this whole exchange of people around all of these communities that always try to have like plausible deniability, like, oh no, like I don't know anything about this guy, and I don't know, we don't do any doxing here, and you know, we just kind of happen to have all the same attack terms and everything else. And then you have like the fact that I don't really do this type of content anymore, even though I carried along, unfortunately, all of these kind of weird, obsessive anti-fans and everything else. So it kind of leaves me in a strange spot to fight back against it. Okay, and now we get to the whole Pisco stuff and everything else. So one of the issues is that because Pisco was drafted into, I don't want to like, that sounds mean. I don't mean like drafted in my community. But because Pisco was in my community, and as a result of being in my community, made a lot of friends in my community, and a lot of those friends and everybody were dragged in also and came from and were part of these kind of like earlier drama areas. These people all have like kind of personal connections or hooks into Pisco's like life, really, and then chat, really, and then they also have very strong connections to these other communities. So, for instance, right? This is hard because like Pisco will challenge me on things. You know, so like, can you prove that this person said this thing, or that this person, like, is Aaron like a Marxist? It's like, can I prove these? Like 100%, like maybe if you give me enough time to dig through clips or whatever, like maybe I can. But it's never like, or like show me one horrible thing that, you know, like Aaron said in a conversation. It's like, well, I don't know if I can show you that. The issue though is just like the connections that are made are very, very, very. The connections that are made along this propaganda model are too strong to ignore, given how they're starting to manifest in all of the content. So like, for instance, right? So somebody linked me this, okay? Like, these people aren't just incidentally in these areas, right? So Aaron is like an active contributor to Gistigal's community. Apparently this is a clip of Aaron like actively shitting on H3H3 with Gistigal here as well. You see Augie, and I don't know if Queeman is also on the call or if he comes later.
The internet, and probably why now he's not suing XQC, right? Now he's neutral with XQC, so he's not going to sue him. Hates all these other people, he's suing them. It's just very
Well, yeah, because the motivation for this obviously is not about infringement; it's about criticism. Because he tried to, even if you're transformative with your criticism of Ethan, if he feels that it goes too far, he's going to try to hit you with a defamation lawsuit like he wanted to do with Noah Samson. I don't know what the status on that is. I don't know if it's been abandoned, but he was threatening that. And then, so like even transformative and comprehensive criticisms of him, he will still find a way to potentially hit you with a lawsuit, because the point is to just make it so people are on edge about criticizing him, and they have to look over their shoulder and think, if I don't criticize him in very, very comprehensive ways, or even if I do, sometimes if I go too far, this multi-millionaire streamer and content creator, I guess, yeah, streamer and content creator could hit me with like a really expensive lawsuit I'm not equipped to handle, so I'm just not going to cover it.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% spot on. I mean, it's just like, you know, he doesn't really want to go after people for infringing his content. He just wants to bankrupt streamers that he doesn't like. That's pretty much it. I mean,
and the thing is, what sucks is that, like, this, I'm not talking about legal consequences, I'm just talking social consequences. See, if they don't react, he would have called them out for dodging criticism, because I'm pretty sure he criticizes them in the content nuke. And then if they react in clips, it'll be like, they only wanted to watch in clips, they don't want to see the full context because they get BTFO'd, so they try to take it out of context to dunk on it. And then they react in full, and they're still getting slapped with these lawsuits. So it just seems like there's not really a way to criticize him that's not going to draw his ire.
Yeah, no, he's very wrathful.
He's wrathful, and the out of context thing is a big thing that, like, I understand. This is what I think goes to forming, like, he created this environment where you're supposed to react to people, you need to react with the context. Also, these people, because they'll never actually react to me with context, and then they react to his whole video, his whole comprehensive nuke, and he's like, yeah, I'm suing you.
No, not like that.
I plan to sue you. Actually.
So like all of the narratives are here for, like, Ethan is the bad guy, Hassan is the victim and good guy. The only reason why these people are even give a f- about this, because like the types of spaces are in, now maybe not for Aaron, but for like Justical and Queen and stuff, these people would be roasting the f- out of like Frogan, Casey Tron, Denims, if I wasn't on one side of this. And I'm not even really on one side of this. It's really more Dan. And because of my association with Dan, they all have to take the ultra hardcore anti-Ethan side. But like all of this stuff is now, right, you've got like all the major players are here. They're all spreading kind of like the same memes and talking points about Ethan. They all have their things. Now, in a vacuum, like maybe, you know, like I'm not going to sit here and say like people shouldn't do content with each other or anything like that. But like all of your major players are here. Now you have it so that whenever I'm arguing with, hold on. I don't have clips for this, but we'll remember it. Okay. I think that if I think if you watch the debate that I had with Pisco and Econoboy 2 days ago, I don't think you'll hear me say anything that's like striking at some crazy weak spot or unhinged thing about Pisco. I don't think, right? Or I'm like, I tell you, like, oh, like you're a fake lawyer or something. I don't think like the more unhinged parts of my community that are doing stuff like that, a lot of people have gotten banned. I'm not generally doing that. In the course of that conversation, okay, so this is just there's just things to keep in mind, okay. So this is just so you can understand, okay. Now, so sorry, I've done so much like legwork, okay, to get to this part of it, okay. When I'm having a public debate with Pisco, okay, now this is the first time that we've had a public interaction, okay. Over the past 7 months, so he basically, I think the day after Pisco's lawsuit, said I was like a sex offender. He's not going to do content anymore. Whatever, fine. Good, okay. Okay. Since then, I have positively covered all of his Tim Pool appearances. I offered to pay to bring that one lawyer on to debate him. I think I've positively covered a lot of the live and learn stuff. Ironically enough, I think the person that I've said the most mean stuff about, like in totality, was probably Hutch, because Hutch was responding to some commenters like, oh, what do you think about Destiny? And Hutch was like, maybe in 5 years after he's reformed. Like, what the 5 years? What are we talking about here, right? And I got really irritated, like, this is retarded. Right? I don't know if I've said anything positive necessarily about Hutch over the past 6 or 7 months, but I think that was like one of the, like, he's like the person I've probably said the most mean stuff about recently, except for maybe with regards to Pisco's specific stances on the Hassan TSA stuff and the Ethan lawsuit stuff. Although both of those things were like, I feel like these are substantive disagreements. I'm not saying like, wow, Pisco's a loser or whatever, but I'm like, I don't understand how you have these positions, right? They're very clear. And last night in my conversation with Pisco, I think I even asked him that. I was like, what? Because he said like, I think you're doing a spite-based unhinged personal attack. And I asked Pisco, I was like, hold on, when was I mean to you, right? Do you know how people will say, why did Russia invade Ukraine? And they'll say NATO expansion, right? Okay, let's look. NATO expansion rounds, okay? When did NATO enlarge, okay? Show me a clean thing, okay? All right, the first, I guess, countries around NATO, okay, Greece, 1952. Did Russia invade Ukraine in 1952? No. 1955? No. 1982? No. 1990, fall of Soviet Union? No. Okay, 1999? Okay, we got some new countries here into NATO. Did Russia invade then? Okay, no. 2004, did they invade? Okay, no. What about 2010, 2009? Okay, not when Albania. Okay. Also, neighboring countries. These are neighboring NATO countries to Russia, right? Did they invade that? No, okay. Okay, so in 2010, when did they invade Crimea? Well, did they invade Crimea in like 2009, 2010? When did Russia invade Crimea? Let's see, 2010, 29? Oh no, interesting, 2014. So is there any other explainer for what could have caused that? Was there any huge thing that happened? Oh, well, this happened in February of 2014, the ousting of Yanukovych. If I'm looking at why Russia and their little green men, okay, would have shown up and invaded and annexed Crimea, why would I point to all of this? No invasion after this, after this, after this, after this, after this, after this, and after this. But right after this, there was a big invasion, right? Seems like maybe this was a huge issue. Maybe, you know? Now, maybe you can say this NATO expansion played into it, but it seems like this was probably your big inciting moment. It's interesting to mention Russia annexing Crimea and not bringing this up, right? So if Pisco is looking to say, like, I'm being a bad faith, spite-filled actor, and I think I asked him last night, I was like, well, what was I criticizing you for? What happened? And he's like, okay, yeah, you were nice to me up to this point. Up to what point? And he was like, well, it was up to when I gave the Hassan TSA takes, and it was up to the Ethan Laws stuff. I was like, okay, could I not have just legitimately disagreed with you there? Like, wouldn't that just simply and easily explain all of the past behavior? Like, doesn't that make the most sense? Where it's like, okay, well, he supported me through all of this stuff or gave me favorable coverage because he agreed with me here. And then in these two events, he gave me a lot of negative coverage. Did I suddenly become spite-filled and hateful? Or did I just like think you gave really bad takes on these, right? Like, it seems like that's the real, and I think last night he admitted that. He's like, okay, yeah, maybe, yeah. And it's like, so why would we assume that I'm being mega spice-based, okay? However, all right, I will say that, so something that felt very, very fucking weird was, it's so hard to put this into words, but when I am arguing with Pisco, and I know that all this stuff is working in the background, I know that his co-host is hopping onto Gistigal stream and shitting on Ethan for months and all this stuff. I know that all these people are working together. And then when I have a debate with Pisco, and Pisco wheels out sped as an insult that I don't think I've ever heard him say in my life, that Queeman says quite often. And then when he refers to, Connor as a white blood cell, which is a term that was originated by Mr. Girl to explain people that defended me. Keep in mind, Connor and I were barely on the same side in that debate. There was a time where it was like, yeah, Connor might think that he's a Republican. We don't agree on everything, right? Like, how am I not, okay? Sorry, so catching us all. So with all of this work in the background, I can demonstrate this. I can demonstrate any single one of these points a million times over. I've only shown you like a very small, like 1% of all the red I've collected from these people, right? When I hear people wheel out these insults, like, what am I supposed to think in my mind? And then last night, he's wheeling out you use Dan Saltman as your attack dog. That's another, I think that was a Mr. Girl thing, and that's also amplified a lot in the Jessica Lynn Queeman space, right? When I start to hear these things pop up, like, what am I, and then I'm being called the one that's being spite-filled and doing the personal attacks, like, the picture? Yeah. If you don't know what the attack dog thing is like a reference to, this also originated in Mr. Girl's community where his, Jesus Christ, where his girlfriend drew a picture of me using my subreddit mod as an attack dog to keep all of my orbiters in line, all of my white blood cells in line, and then all of them are here to attack people, okay, that don't totally toe the line, right? And like, look at it doesn't even make sense. Like, ABBA, made a huge video, disowning me. Supreme is this unhinged, obsessive, weird freak that's in Gistigal server posting all day about me. Tread Logic, obviously, on his thumbnail, like, called me a rapist. Irrelevant said that I deserve to go to jail or something, or needs to be on a sex offender registry list. Stardust is probably still okay. Brittany Simon, like, very weirdly and derangedly, obsessively covers me and makes random shit up. I think in our last video, she said that when we were all out to eat, that Dan admitted to cheating on his wife. I've never heard Dan say anything like this in my entire life. Cherry, obviously, is on her whatever Gistigal BPD breakout arc. Kyle, I guess, is still locked under chain. Melina and I are split up. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. And then, meanwhile, right, like, imagine drawing this the other way, where Gistigal is the guy here with the attack dog, and all of these other people are kept, like, lock and chain. You have to toe the line. You have to toe the line on everything. or else your whole internet career will be destroyed and you'll be excised, from the community completely. Somebody said, to be fair, she made the drawing before a lot of those falling outs. Yeah, but that's my point. Like, I've never like enforced any sort of hardcore rigidity on any of these people. All these people are always free to say whatever they want, and sometimes they did. The idea that I'm like sitting here like trying to, but yeah. Anyway, so that it's just I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And then when you have like people like Pisco, screeching about how I don't co-sign what any of these people say. Why are you attacking my co-host about this or whatever? There's not like a specific thing I can point to, but like when those insults are starting to come out, we're getting like the white blood cell thing coming out. I was like, what the am I supposed to say? One of the things that I realized, I'll just run down a couple of things I wrote down really quickly. One of the things I realized that I'm a lot better about now than I was before, and it is one of the reasons I'll call out Aaron, and I will call out Aaron because I guess not my friend anymore. But I will call it out. Is I had a close friend point out to me. A long time ago. Lauren, after I shot her down to start dating her, started to make unhinged claims about me like recording people or whatever bullshit because of me talking about Farah's conversation with me, and she started making it sound like I like recorded us in our bedroom or some bullshit. Obviously, all these were baseless. All this was bullshit. She had no proof for any of it. She knew she was lying the whole time. Okay, these are like unhinged, wild, wacky fucking claims. But she's danced around like 15 different stories, like making different claims like this because she is mad that I shot her down, right? And there's multiple YouTube videos on this if you want to go revisit any of it. And I had a friend point out to me, how the are you friends with any of your current friends when none of them have any respect for you whatsoever as a human being? I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And she's like, Lauren was tweeting out and making all of these insane claims about you, and then the next day your entire friend group is out like having dinner with her, posting stories on Instagram. And I remember like, and this friend was just telling me like, I don't know why the fuck would you be friends with any of these people? That's unhinged. And I started to realize, and this is a thing that I've changed a lot in the past, where I'm like, that is actually really fucking crazy. And I'm trying to imagine like a similar circumstance where like if some crazy girl was making like claims against Pisco, or some crazy guy was like on this unhinged, like obsessive tirade against, like some friend, like would I just be hanging out with them and posting pictures and like being cool and chill? I don't think so. I can't think of it, but usually those relationships fall apart, I think, pretty fast because of other reasons. So it's like, that's a thing that I think is important. Another thing that irritated me a lot, and I don't know why or where Pisco, I don't know. I'm going to assume that Pisco's probably never dealt with, and I don't mean this derisively, I don't think that Pisco has dealt with like huge pushback or hate before. In terms of like my community has probably been attacking him for probably some number of months now, or at least all the recent coverage has been bad because of the TSA stuff, because of the Ethan lawsuit stuff, and then because of all this recent stuff. So he probably isn't used to that level of public pushback, which I admit is a lot. It is a lot to deal with. It's hard to deal with. But for Pisco to be on a call, okay, shouting at me about how hard it is to deal with haters online, for him to be saying, do you know what it's like when you're trying to build bridges with people and talk to people and your whole community is there just shitting on me? And this is like after calling Dan my attack dog, calling Connor points, who's like not even an orbiter. He's like a meteor that sometimes drifts into my star system, calling him a white blood cell, and then is co-host with the person who theoretically is like one of the biggest traitor backstabbers to Pixie, who was leaking. Remember, like, for however Pisco feels about Connor points, right? Aaron was leaking all of our personal convos to people who legitimately want to destroy my life, right? President Sunday, and destroy the lives of other people around her. President Sunday is not just a person who like makes, documentaries or makes videos, or like, he wants to see Kyla's life completely ruined. They want to see my life completely ruined, right? So if these are the people you're hanging out with, these are the community members that you're courting, these are the people that are actively posting in your chat, and then you're going to allude to, do you know how hard it is for people in your community to say mean things about me on your subreddit? And it's like, bruh, like, you're literally surrounded by right now people whose mission is, and people say it hyperbolically, but it's like the mission is like to destroy my life, like literally, like that is the goal. And then to destroy the lives of like anybody around me if they can. That's just I'm so sorry, but that is like such an unempathetic and deranged thing to say. It reminds me when I was on like a Scuffed podcast and Trainwrecks would say, you guys don't know what it's like to be banned from ever and hated by everybody. Like, Trainwrecks, you're gonna say to me, bro, are you serious right now? Looking at Pisco's chat during that convo was pretty wild. I mean, if you got screenshots, you can pass them over, but. Oh, true. When I tweeted about debating the Vanguard, the first thing that they went to, I think, was homophobic attacks about like leaked porn videos of me. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I guess good luck appealing to that style of people. And me, I guess, you know? Yeah, I don't know. That's just feel insane sometimes. Because the only way that I can kind of make sense in these environments and like navigating these environments is to like, I have to be aware of all these different things that are moving at any point in time. And it is like this is like some gang stalking schizo shit. Like if I were to sit down with a therapist and be like, okay, check this out. All the largest content creators online are saying these crazy things about me, okay? But they don't like saying about me directly. They come from these smaller communities of anonymous individuals, and I don't know the individual identities of them. And also, like, a lot of it filters up to other communities that talk about it, and it's hard to point to exactly where they come from. And they also all deny it sometimes, and it's like, the person would probably say, okay, well, here's some pentazamine, or I don't know what the you antipsychotic people. It's like, you're probably crazy, bro. But what a Destiny example of H3 snark DGG overlap with the intention of working together. Why would you post this shit publicly? Uba Palma here from LOH3. What the fuck is that? My H3 videos have been successful on TT. What is TT? Moving on to DGG plus Orbit. Looking forward to working with y'all. Destiny, how come you wouldn't clearly say this to his face that associating with Aaron is a problem for you? I mean, I kind of did. That's when it started, that's when I blocked them all. Like at that, like it's not like I'm gonna make a demand on his friends after they've already kind of like excised me from their crowd. Oh, leftovers H3 snark sub. But I'm pretty sure that when I said it, I don't think he challenged me on it at all, which makes me think maybe he does understand a little bit. Because when I said it yesterday, because he was like, why did you block me? I was like, because as soon as like Aaron is like creeping back into these communities, that's just insane to me. Like without any kind of public acknowledgement of anything or any statements about anything, that's just very strange. All this to say that the Pisco bridge is nuked from orbit, yeah? No, I don't think so. But like, I mean, I don't know. At this point, my guess is that he hates me. The problem is that something that I said in the past, and this is probably a weakness of mine, I think maybe. It's actually interpersonally, this plays out a lot in my life as well. When I was at the, when I would go to a lot of the red pill spaces, a lot of these people said that my marriage with Melina would fail because if we do an open relationship, she's going to meet a guy who's like taller than me, more buff than me, bigger dick than me, and then she's going to go for like a more Chad alpha dude than me. And my response is always just historically, like this is the pattern in my life. If I am losing out because there's some girl I like and I'm not able to get the chick or I'm not able to do something or whatever, generally the reason why is because there's another guy in the background who's willing to lavish her with way more attention. And that's always that's my number one competitor, always, okay? Like, generally, especially because the alpha dudes are so fucking insecure, like for the types of women that I generally go after, like I'll compete these dudes like 10 out of 10 times. But also the alpha dudes don't even go after these guys. They're looking for like fucking weirdo, blipped girls or whatever. And then and part of the reason why is just I just don't have the time or effort to like work against that in the background. And I would argue that when my relationship with Melina ended, that was a big reason why, is because she found a dude who was willing to like give like a ton of time. When I have interpersonal issues in the streamer world, and it's because people are working in the background. So like Lauren De Laguna is a really good example of a worker like that. Kelly Jean is a really good example of a worker like that. Jessica and Queeman are really good examples of like workers like this. I just don't have the time to deal with all of it. And I lose the desire very fast because it's like, you've known me for how long? If you're really gonna believe like all the things that these people are saying, I don't have time to counter every claim. And you're not even getting proof from these people that any things are happening. Oh, this is the thing that I was gonna say before. One reason why I think that Pisco is so mindful on me and was like kind of rejecting a lot of the stuff that I was saying before, or like he doesn't believe me, I guess, or it feels like he doesn't believe me, is because I think that what happens is there's a lot of people like Doobie or Queeman, or Doobie and Queeman are probably two of the big ones, and probably Aaron maybe, who are saying things like, oh, Destiny said on stream that you're a piece of shit. Destiny said on stream that you're this. And he's falling into the classic streamer trap of not asking for a source or not asking for a link on it, right? You know, like every time you guys say like, oh, this guy said this, I'm always like, hold on, show me the video. Let me see the clip. I don't believe you. Show me the video, right? The reason why is because I know people try to shitstir like that. And I don't know if Pisco has, I don't know if Pisco has like ever gotten clips of anything I've said about him or anything, or if he's literally just being told this by other people. Yeah. Destiny, why do you attract these types of people though? I think part of it is just the streamer world, but this is why I said, like, especially 24 onward, like most of my friends, like all the new friends and everything, these are people who are like outside of the streamer world. Like it's not worth it. And I don't have any of these issues with real life friends. I don't like this like really weird, hyper obsessive, competitive, gossipy, high schooly, like on Discord servers, obsessing about me, my son, and then obsessing about like sucking videos of me and calling me a and like all of these like real world people that I know I don't have to worry about or even think about. This is incredibly not part of my real life. But like when you're drafting people from that world and they're like, you're like, it's all like part of the same thing. It's like, yeah, Jesus. Like if I was starting politics right now, I don't think I would have to deal with all this stuff as much, because remember, a huge source of this, unfortunately, you can say it's my fault, you can say it's for everything I've done, is because I dragged a lot of these people from these spaces. So they're kind of like along for the ride. And because, not just because I've dragged them from there, but also because people like Hassan, like hardcore feed into it and play into it, because they would rather discuss anything but the issues. Are you especially disappointed that Pisco of all people would fall into the snarky/lefty trap? Not really, because my assumption, I've always said, is that like when I approach people online, I always feel like it's kind of like a matter of time thing. It's just, unfortunately, like it's a lot to stand against and it's a lot to deal with. Like most people just can't handle or deal with, like, it's hard to say this without like sucking myself up, but like I deal with an unfathomable amount of shit and harassment online, in real life, and then for all the people in my circle. But for whatever reason, developmentally, biologically, whatever, I just have like some triggers or levers in my mind that allow me to deal with it really well. The vast majority of people would go insane in this environment. So it's a lot of stuff. Not to doom or post, but isn't this drama going to follow you for the rest of your career? I don't think so. Like I said, I think the only reason why it got so pulled up was because of the whole Pixie. I think that absent that, I think it would have just continued to kind of filter out in over time. I think it can still now, but it'll be when I'm 40 or 41 or whatever, however long it takes for I guess all of this to subside and then moving forward. Because like these types of people don't follow, like Brian Tyler Cohen or follow, like David Pakman or any of that. Now, who's to say maybe if Hassan were to sort of focus on those people, maybe they would start to. I don't know. But do you think that Pisco's moderation has to do with this? He said you ban all dissent, but he keeps his critics around. But looks like some of the people he doesn't ban are disinfo spreaders. Pisco doesn't believe that. Pisco got his start, I think, on my stream, debating me and arguing with me. Pisco significantly changed my position on a lot of things. Remember, the whole January 6th obsession arc came from me and Pisco having a 2-day screaming fest at each other for like 12 hours, with me saying that his position was unfounded, was retarded, he couldn't justify it at all, right? That whole thing, my whole deep dive into the J6 Select Committee, that 900-page report, was as a result of like my fighting with Pisco on that. The reason why Pisco says that is because that's a very common talking point from Kiwi Farms. If I had a slideshow for you today, I could show you. But like one of the things that's repeated in my Kiwi Farms thread over and over again, because the narrative on the court case stuff changed so much. In the very beginning, it was the end of my career. 15 women were going to come out and say that I them or spread their videos without permission or recorded them non-consensual. All of this was supposed to happen. And then the narrative changed to, okay, well, it might just be Pixie, but more people are going to come out. He doesn't even have a lawyer. He's representing himself. He's so arrogant and retarded, so horrible. Then the narrative changed to, oh my God, he hired the pro lawyer who defended Prince Andrew. It's because he knows he's guilty. Pixie's going to rape this guy. It's going to be so funny. And then it changed to, oh my God, he's only going to win because he has a good lawyer. Pixie's law firm is incompetent. She's getting bullied because she couldn't raise enough money and he's just trying to win because he's paying his lawyers more. Then it changed to, okay, maybe she doesn't have the best case, but it's epic that she's raping him financially. There are other people in Discord servers that still can come forward. Justicle's trying to help people, I guess, like filter out into the court case or whatever. And then it changed to, even if he wins the court case, it doesn't matter. We all know that he's pro. We all know that he did these bad things because of the one message to Pixie where I said, like, I'm sorry, like I violated trust in the worst way possible. Because I feel like I did, because I'm entrusted with a video that leaked publicly. But people read into that as like, oh, he's admitting to saying non-consensually, blah, blah, even though there wasn't a single conversation that me and Pixie had for weeks after, until on the 11th or 12th, after Lauren started messaging me, that all of a sudden that narrative came. And then Pixie realized that she had a special attack that she started to use against every single person on the internet. And then now the narrative is, I'll probably win my case, but it's epic and based if Pixie can use Kiwi Farms arguments to, oh, I didn't even demonstrate that one. I don't know if I have it. If anybody that follows my court case wants to like that, if you want to, in terms of like how involved all these people are, The Kiwi Farms people show up in my court docs. The opposing counsel, either because of lack of time, money, or resources, instead of like making actual legal arguments themselves, they just copy the legal arguments from Kiwi Farms in order to waste the time of me and my lawyers and to drain my wallet and my reputation. And for some of the court filings, they even directly link to Kiwi Farms threads, or they'll directly link to, there's a site called Ghost Archive that's the exact same archive that was created on a Kiwi Farms post. I think Code Cave is the name, I think, of one of my more obsessive pages. I don't know if that's Blav on an alt or not. Sometimes I go back and forth on that. I don't know. But I think he even wrote a joke on like page 1500 where he's like, bro, we should be billing Pixie's legal team for all the work we're putting in here. Oh yeah. So, and then one of the things people ask is like, why isn't his whole fan base gone? Why hasn't Destiny's entire fan base abandoned him? And then the narrative on Kiwi Farms is Destiny has so aggressively banned every single person that disagrees with him that only like the mentally have remained, who are the most ardent suckers and the biggest worshippers and diehard fans are left. So when Pisco says you ban all criticism, that's a talking point that is ripped right from Kiwi Farms, that's repeated by Gisticle, and then somehow wound up in Pisco's brain. But I don't know how. I don't know where it comes from exactly. This kind of insane stuff just seems like a thing for politically interested people specifically, not online people in general, and it happens in IRL political orgs too. To this level of coordination? Maybe it does, I guess. It just it feels a little unhinged, but... Meanwhile, Pixie's life is slowly being ruined, and people encouraging it have no skin in the game, so they get the added benefit of watching Pixie spiral into debt and further extremes. True. Jessica also does it with his fake GF right now, Cherry, where he's encouraging her to hardcore BPD spiral because she's a useful idiot to him, basically, while he fake dates her, and she constantly, unhingedly, obsessively posts about me and Kyla. Maybe she'll kill herself at some point, but... Hey Destiny, have you thought about acting more like Hassan in this points? Like he seems to have a pretty good grip on those around him. No, I don't think so. The one thing that we kind of brought this up on stream before. One of the things that I've said is that I don't think there are very many hard decisions you have to make in life. I think most of the life decisions, the big life decisions you make, are actually pretty easy. I think that sometimes they appear to be difficult, but the reason why they're difficult is because you don't have some fundamental principle or thing figured out. And when you don't have those things figured out and you're confronted with a big decision, the decision is very unclear because you just don't know like what direction in space and time you're like oriented in. One of the things that I've kind of gone back and forth on, and I've talked about this on stream, I don't know if this is with regards to me personally or just like a random thing, is the idea of like, are people fundamentally good? Is there some notion or concept of moral progress? And is there some like karmic reward for like acting with some kind of virtue in the political space that will somehow be like, like rewarded as time goes on? My prior thoughts were always like, yeah, like you should always try to be honest. Don't like buy into conspiracy theories. Don't do crazy, weird, unhinged shit. You're like making basically short-term deals with the devil. And when he comes to collect, it's going to be with a lot of interest. And then I think for the last like 5 months after the Pixie stuff, I started to heavily reconsider that. I'm like, maybe it's just like the unhinged shit. It's like, maybe that is like the way to go. But I think I've slowly drifted back to like, I think moral progress, or I think like fundamental goodness of humans, I think is a useful fiction that we all have to buy into, because if you don't, what the fuck is the point of even existing? You should just kill yourself. I think that in the same way that like I think therefore I am, like I have some subjective experience that all of my experiences are filtered through, and I think that it's a real thing, and I have to believe that to meaningfully function in the world without falling into some pit of absurdity. I think for humanity to progress, and for you to be taking an active role, I think you have to believe in some fundamental goodwill or some fundamental good virtue. And I don't mean this in some in some like religious or spiritual sense. Like these can all be like emergent things from underlying, neurobiological properties of the brain that we tend to like people who are honest to us or whatever. But I think you have to have that belief. I don't know how you could navigate in this world with some type of long-term positive vision for the country, for the world, and not believe that. I think it's just too much to, you'd have to have a very depressing view of people otherwise, that we ended up where we're at right now today, like completely by accident, and at any point in time we could lose everything just because people are crazy. I think you can't, I don't think you could function that way. Where are we at? How do you plan to push back, or are you pushing back against the system, or is it an unsolvable problem? I'm probably not going to talk about this much at all anymore. Maybe every now and then I'll point out like a funny thing, but I think that I just need people to be aware of it so that people have a better understanding of kind of like where it's coming from. Because like one of the worst things about this system is if you try to if you try to deal with some criticism like on its face, like it has so much more merit than it actually does, that mind fucks you. One comment that I saw a lot in chat is like, oh, why don't you pull any of these people on and debate about it? It wouldn't actually be a good conversation. So like if I pulled on Gisticle about this, he would say, show me evidence of my Discord server doxing anybody. And then I would say, I don't have any evidence of that. I don't think you guys dox directly. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, show me evidence of our relationship with the Kiwi Farms server. It's like, I can't show that directly, but I do know that you have this guy that's in here, and I also know that he's active in this server, and I do know that this is his account on Kiwi Farms, and I do know that a lot of these things are said on Kiwi Farms, verbatim get copy-pasted. For instance, today, they are literally copy-pasting images from my Kiwi Farms thread with the hopes that I open it on stream because that makes them super happy, right? So like this guy is posting an image from a Kiwi Farms thread having to do with Pixie. You can see, I think Pisco even maybe, I don't want to misquote that, but like Gisticle is going over videos that come from Kiwi Farms and are hosted on like a stream and everything, right? I can show you that. And then the conversation will collapse into, oh, well, I didn't even know that guy posts there. And then it'll go to, oh, so what, am I supposed to ban from my server every single person that might have an account in another server that posts on Kiwi Farms? Isn't that actually hypocritical of you, Destiny? Don't you explicitly say that you don't ban people for cross-platform or off-platform behavior? And then I would say, well, yeah, I don't, because it's way too much to police that. And you go, oh, so should it be expected that I have to go and police all of that off-platform behavior? And it's like, well, I don't know. That's, I guess it's kind of a hard thing to say. It's probably not a reasonable expectation for you to do that. It's like, oh, exactly. So do you have anything else for me that you would like to criticize on it? Am I not allowed to watch your content, right? The problem is that the way that this whole model works, everybody can see it and everybody knows what's going on, but it's very hard to directly put your finger on it, right? How many hours have I streamed today? It took me like 2 hours just to kind of like build out and explain all of this. And if I show you a huge collection of screenshots and content and everything else, like I can demonstrate a lot of the things that I'm talking about, but it's a lot. It's a lot to get through, right? Like, oh, cool, posting sex or whatever, or sexy messages or whatever between me and my wonderful friend from whose ex or whatever boyfriend leaked all my shit, right? These things are being posted in a Gisticle server. I bet you Destiny saw my profile pic and is now psychosexually obsessed with me. Plus he fetishizes Jewish women. Yeah, it's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Destiny, that's me. That's me what? How is it that you can tear down Nazis, but not stuff like this? You have the info in your Obsidian. I feel like if you take your time to read over everything, it would be fruitful, and can gloat that none can make a reasonable point that I'm doing wrong. Gloating leads to people not being able to look away. I mean, it's hard to even, I mean, like one, like I do fuck up, like I do make mistakes in life, or I do bad things sometimes, like it happens. So like for instance, like the Ryan Beard in his video, who, by the way, I respect the fuck out of that beginning of that video. It's very funny to me. It's like posting things where it's like, what about this thing that happened with Mia Rose? I'm like, oh, well, that's bad. Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, it's like, he needs to take accountability. It's like, okay, well, I said it's bad. Like, I made it with Mia. Like, what am I supposed to do, right? What about this thing with Blue Teeth? Like, oh, that was bad too. These are things like 13 years ago. Is it that like every year are we going to rehash every single bad thing I've ever done, and then I have to quote unquote take accountability for, like, what does that even mean? Oh yeah, Ryan Beard, another common Pisco chatter. Although I separate Ryan Beard from these people, I don't think that he's actually on some crazy anti-fan, brain broken thing or whatever. I think Ryan Beard is a more honest actor, just from what I've seen. I could be wrong, but just from what I've seen, that's my assumption. Yeah, it's just, it's a lot, and two, it's just not, like, this isn't like what I want to, I don't want to do this. Like, this is, like I said before, like, unless maybe if RFK bans amphetamines, I don't have the tools personally, nor the desire, and I don't have the fan base to engage in this type of fight anymore. Like, I want to go on shows right now and argue about the lab leak shit, or I want to argue about vaccine efficacy with conservatives, or I want to argue about the Epstein shit, or I want to fight with lefties about whether or not they support the Democratic Party, or I want to fight about Israel-Palestine. Like, I want to fight about these issues. It's way more entertaining to me. It's what I've dumped like all my time into researching for the past year and a half. The idea that like it's time to go back to the back to the trenches of the crazy online drama, also with a bunch of people that kind of have nothing to lose. Like, not to be mean, but like these people are all losers, and they've been losers for a long time. Like, they're not going anywhere. It's not like Gisticle or Queeman are going to be big content creators, 2 or 3 years from now. Chances are, like, Queeman will continue to be a nobody in the background that like kind of sucks off other commentary guys. Gisticle, 50% chance, Mooter between him and Sherry. Like, these people are not going to be anything in a few years. So like, why waste and invest so much time right now? Like, I just don't want to. It's not fun for me. I just have to like point it out so that people have some understanding of like when somebody says something, right? Like Pisco said that this guy's a white blood cell. How do you respond to that? And it's like this, there are so many reasons why it's not even worth responding to this, but you have to like have this whole model in mind to understand. Yeah. Would you ask Pisco to have a chat off stream? If he tells you to fuck off right, from everything you're expecting, right? The thing is, I don't think that, like I said, I don't think that Pisco is like okay with all of that in the background. And he would just say that like, well, when Aaron's on my stream, we don't talk about this, or I don't support any of that, or I think that's bad or whatever. But like, think about what am I asking? What am I telling Pisco? Pisco, you need to cut off your new group of friends for, even though we're not even really friends anymore. Like, it's like, what am I even appealing to there? Like that's such a crazy, in my opinion, a crazy like demand to make of somebody, you know? We tried the media company thing after this dies down. Maybe the biggest issue with the media company, because I spent a lot of time looking, is I just don't know who the I would even want for content creators, or I don't know 100% if it's just it's so hard to find. Maybe my opinions will change. Maybe in the next couple of years, maybe there'll be like more stronger like liberal content creators like popping up. But man, there is like almost nobody in this space that I enjoy watching their stuff and respect, because it's so many crazy socialist lefties, and then it's so many and then there's all like MAGA, and it's like Jesus, you know. You will never be able to have a legitimate debate on Lab Leak unless it's in a similar professional format as Root Claim. Also, it's dumb for you to 100%. You're missing the point entirely. It just doesn't have to be Lab Leak. I'm just saying it's more entertaining, interesting for me to debate like issues that you can take like strong stances because there's like a researched real position on, rather than fighting on interpersonal drama on whether or not like I'm a manipulator. Like, it's just not very entertaining. It's very boring to me. Or even for like debating Pisco, like, is this a personal spite-driven attack? It's like, you know, there's not even a good reason to think that. What would you say is the core thing that is fueling this whole campaign? It can't be ideological, considering all these communities have different politics. I don't think there's like necessarily a core thing. Like, maybe the question is like, if I could change one thing, what would stop all of this, or what would change all of this? I'm not actually sure. I don't actually know. I'm not sure. There's just so many different like things that are all kind of like synergistically working together. It's hard to say what one thing would make it not happen anymore. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Banning snark Reddits. I do think that, well, but the problem is that like people don't, there's just, the people that would need to separate from these places the most are the ones who have the most to gain from them. And it would just be, that's a really tall order, you know? Yeah, and it's just, like I said, it's just too much. I don't think most people would do it. Destiny, Lonerbox didn't gravitate away to the lefty sphere, even after separating from you, and didn't go crazy on you. Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I said, I think Lonerbox, I think he was put in a very awkward spot. I'm sure that Pixie probably told him a lot of fucking insane shit. That person is, I don't even know what universe her mind exists in right now. But yeah, I'm actually, yeah. I don't know how, actually, I guess, yeah, well, I guess it's unfortunate now, but Lonerbox might actually be the only other person, I think, that has somehow managed to like resist insane audience capture, even if there are things we disagree on. I don't know, yeah. But have you ever talked to other streamers about all of this behind the scenes? I'm trying to think I mean, like, obviously I've talked with Dan about it, I've complained about it. I'm trying to think. All of these kind of models have kind of like come together over the past few months for me. And so I've already kind of like, and all of my friendships basically ejected in January. So I don't, no, probably not. But also, again, like, it's hard because when I talk about stuff like this, I have everything to gain from people accepting this view of things, and they have so much to lose. I'd basically be asking them to stand on principle for a thing that I don't even know if I could convince them. It's just a lot, yeah. Do you think that if one of the big bad people faced consequences like an expensive civil case, would maybe not stop it, but at least curb the level to which it happens? Maybe, but I don't even know if there's like actionable material here. I don't think this is like illegal. Like shit talking and stalking people online and gossiping and lying about them, it's not technically like illegal. Maybe you can get into some defamatory territory, but like maybe. Would you have considered them good friends? Dan said you were thinking about moving to New York, and that's why he got bad vibes. Dan is very protective. I think like goodish friends. I think that one issue that kind of that fucks me a little bit. This is so self-aggrandizing, but I don't give a fuck. If people are close to me, I have disagreements with people, and I absolutely will have disagreements with people, but I do try to like protect their reputation as much as I can. Like, I'm not like, there's nobody that you can personally ask. I mean, you can ask my haters, I guess. Like, if you ask my haters, I don't know how many of them will be honest about it, but like, oh, like, what did Destiny say about this guy or this guy or this guy in the background when you guys were off stream? Like, I'm generally fair. I think I'm very honest about other people's things. Like if I say like, oh, like this guy hates me, we fight or whatever, like I almost always qualify this with like, yeah, this guy probably hated me though because like I got super mad at this and I was unhinged here, or like my subreddit made a bunch of like crazy posts when you're like, I generally like am trying to get both sides of every story, and being very honest about people and I'm trying to like do my best to like be as charitable as possible to people when I'm talking about them privately to people and when I'm talking about them on my stream to people. Now I would say this is good because I think it reflects positively on me, and then two, I think that it's good that if I'm around people, I want them to have positive reputations that are in my community and everything. But the issue that we run into then is that if they end up being like massive backstabbers, I've done so much work building credibility for some of these people that that now it's like. So somebody earlier asked me if I'm upset that people like jump ship when Pixie made the accusations. Like, yeah, obviously on an emotional level, on an intellectual level, I'm pretty bothered. I'm like, okay, what happened to wait for more evidence or whatever? However, if you watch my stream for any amount of time, I think I've basically only said positive things about Pixie ever, right? I don't think I've ever gone unhinged on her, even when she's given probably some of the most argumentation I've ever heard in my life. Remember the Tara Reid argument of, what was the Tara Reid argument? I'm going to say it, and it's going to sound like I'm being bad faith, but it was actually this retarded. I think Pixie said that if you get sexually assaulted, you could invent any memory possible. And so any woman could say anything and maybe not have evidence for it, but you should always believe it because she could be having a traumatic response that could inhibit her ability to accurately recall things or something like that. It was that retarded. Because I think we finally ironed out the end of that debate as like, because I was saying like, hold on, so are you saying that a traumatized sexually assaulted woman could literally say anything about anything and you would just believe it? And I think her answer was literally yes. I don't want to rehash. Somebody can timestamp it, maybe post it in chat. I don't know if I'll watch it, but like even on arguments as dumb as that, like I tried Destiny. I don't know if you remember, but she got destroyed by Zerka on stream and you had to help her. Yeah. But again, I don't mind, like if these are friends, I'm not going to be like, it's not like I'm covering for their views or I'm lying about what they believe. I'll still argue with them. I'll still say I think this is dumb, but I'm trying their best to help them workshop their point of view, and then I'm also trying my best to give people credit when they're correct on things and to not just be like unhingedly, obsessively focusing on like one or two bad things. But then the issue is that like, so like when Pixie got, I guess like mind fucked or raped by Lauren De Laguna, and when Pixie, this person who is universally praised, everybody has a positive opinion about her. She's integrated into the progressive victory stuff. She is like active in all of my politically active Discord servers, and she's doing all these things. When she comes out and she writes a Substack that's not just saying like, oh, Destiny sent a video of mine that I didn't consent to for 100% or something. That wasn't what she wrote. What she wrote was that I was an egotistical, aggressive manipulator that preyed on her when she was 19 years old, got her into an uncomfortable situation, and then manipulated and used her so that I could show her body off to other young people online with the attempts of facilitating more sexual relationships with probably the hope that she said that it would all leak eventually because I would get off from the high of it, and that I'm implicitly threatening her by talking about suing people like Hassan, like I don't even care. Like when that's the post, it's like, if you're part of my community and if you're in my friend group and all you've seen me say are like positive things about the person that she comes out, like her credibility is not just high on its own, it's also high because I've extended a lot of my own, like, I don't want to say aura, credibility, I guess, to defending a reputation, to defending her credibility. When she comes out with an accusation, it's like, whew, that's a lot. That's a lot of shit to. So like, so when you're around me and you're reading that, it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I've heard Destiny say a million times on stream, like Pixie's like the nicest person I've ever met. She would never say anything mean or horrible. She wouldn't do anything, right? So like I understand why people would read that, and it's like, but then also in my mind I'm like, Jesus, there's no way. She made you sound like a psychopath. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. And then when on the very same day when Cherry decides to come out and claim about me, that the thing is that like the fight that I would have with her on this topic comes down to one night when we had conversations about stuff, but it's literally a he said, she said, and every single thing that we talked about in that conversation, every single thing we talked about is recollected differently. So for instance, like in the same conversation, we were talking about recording stuff. In that same conversation, apparently she told me that it's already public. I guess not public. Like apparently in that same conversation, like her husband like abused her or something, right? And one of the big reasons why she had like a BPD blow up later on at TwitchCon a few months later was because like Melina would go into chat and just say like random things sometimes. I think I've said all this here. You know how Melina would go into chat and type random things. Melina went into chat one day and she said something like, choke me. And then she put like one of the emotes or whatever. She would just say random shit. Oh yeah, Mel W. And one of Cherry's bluffs is like, I know that the reason why Pixie went into chat and she typed that thing, the reason why she typed that is because she was making fun of the fact that you and her were probably bragging to each other about the fact that I'd been like abused by my husband. I was like, I don't even remember hearing it. I've never heard anything bad about Cherry's husband ever. Like, I feel like the only thing she's told me about her husband is overwhelmingly positive stuff. So yeah, but I mean, like, listen, fucking people believe what they want on that. Like, I have no proof or evidence of any of us. I don't know what conversations I could have had with her, because another issue with Cherry, and I think I can demonstrate this from our Twitter combos, is Cherry would have so many BPD freakouts that she would always tell me, like, delete all of our messages. I don't want to keep our messages. Delete them all over and over again. She's probably told a bunch of other people this too. So like, I don't even have backups of old messages with Cherry, because like every 3 to 6 months she'd be like, delete all this. I'm embarrassed. I'm like, okay, whatever, delete them all. Yeah, but yeah. But I mean, regardless, I don't even care. That's not even the most relevant thing. The Pixie stuff, I understand why when that came out, there's a whole bunch of people around me who are like, bro, this is really fucked up. And it's like, me, right? But then it's hard to, how do I fight against a Substack post? But this is also, you will understand this better once these rulings come down for why I was so mad about them moving to seal that transcript, is because her testimony under oath was so different and was so much more measured than what was in that Substack post. And the fact that I don't have the ability to go through any of that right now because we're waiting for the judge to rule on it is so triggering to me. Like, how dare you make some crazy slanderous post online? I don't even think Pixie wrote a lot of it, to be honest. I think Lauren probably wrote most of it. That you would make something like that, put that out to the public to try to destroy me as much as possible, and then now that you've wanted to litigate against me in a public and federal court, but now you want to seal some entire parts of our back and forth because you're not happy about how much you got called out for lying about, that is beyond infuriating to me. Yeah, but also, by the way, for all of my law students in chat, or for all of my lawyers in chat, half the redacted shit that's filed with this court, I don't even have copies of. I still don't even know what the actual original filings were for all anything, like half of the that you see that's sealed or redacted, I don't even know what the it is. They never provided copies of that to any of us. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure violation, like it's like none of this is allowed or okay. There are no local rules in Florida that make it okay, but it's just all a joke. Yeah. Okay. All right. Don't complain about that. Do you think the reason plaintiff hasn't involved Kiwi Farms in the lawsuits is so that she stays in their good graces and keeps getting material to throw at you? Possibly. Okay. Kiwi Farms is involved in linked LOL? No, they mean like as a defendant. What made her flip to hate you so much? I don't know. My theory is that one, she's super close friends with Lauren De Laguna. Lauren De Laguna is very much like one of the schemer people. I think I posted the picture in chat before. I don't know if somebody sees it, but like they literally posted. It's just so crazy how blatant it is too. Do I have this? Lauren posted on her Twitter and on her Instagram birthday pictures hanging out with her and Pixie, and then a third friend who fucking hates me. It was very awkward because that third friend also lives here, and she got me in the courtyard one day. She's like, "You fucking horrible person," and I'm like, I barely even know you. I'm like 20 minutes behind, but one of the people talking in Pisco's ear is Doobie. He's convincing Pisco and his audience that he's not actually a neo-Nazi anti-Semite dude, claiming he just plays one on panels despite still doing the same off stream. Oh, I don't know. I don't care. Yeah. I mean, like, if you're going to believe all this shit, like the fuck are. Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. You guys have the start streaming button in it too. Yeah, but like this is just so blatant and funny and hilarious to me. That like, and it's so funny too, because I don't know how much of this ever came up on stream, but like Pixie and Lauren hated each other so much because Lauren was such a terrible roommate. And I had to coach Pixie through how to even talk to Lauren as a horrible roommate, because Pixie would get ran over in conversations so much by Lauren about it. But like they're apparently the restaurant. I don't know if they live together now or what, but yeah, Jesus. Found the Tara Reid meme.
Problem isn't a lack of evidence, it's the faking of evidence and the changing of, not just a lack of evidence, in ways that are inexplainable by trauma.
Really?
Yes, really. Saying that you filed a complaint, but it was a sexual harassment, and then later on when they say they're going to release, you're like, okay, well, I didn't put sexual harassment. Like, that's not explainable by trauma, not at all, not even close.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, like, I think that, or even in the sense of like what happened or the exact events that occurred, like trauma can't up your like memory recollection. It can't up like.
And then you remember suddenly when somebody tells you that they can look up the complaint. I don't agree with that.
I mean,
you're
did she say that? Yep. How do you call it? She said. She explicitly
said initially that her complaint was a sexual harassment complaint, and then after it was stated that they can try to find those complaints, I don't even know if any complaint at all was found. But after it was explicitly stated that they can look for a complaint, she said, okay, well wait, that complaint didn't mention sexual harassment at all.
But that seems like pretty in line with the whole idea of like Reed not coming fully out with her story before, like for example, and I know you don't consider.
Okay, I'm not gonna relay this whole thing. Okay, stop. There's not even any point watching this. But yeah, this was an unhinged debate. But this was like 5 years ago, so whatever. Stop. Doesn't matter. Will the transcript become unsealed when the case ends? My guess is when the judge rules on it, that it will be unsealed. We're just waiting for the judge to rule on it. But they probably have a really busy backlog. It's a federal court, so. Destiny, I feel like Pisco's contempt for you, or the contempt that he has for you, is being understated a bit. During the WIC debate, his behavior/body language was unhinged. True, but I think he was really heated. But I think it's because of a combination of a lot of the pushback he's gotten from my community, which is actually probably difficult to deal with, I imagine. I think that's legitimate. But also because of all the weird shit that people like Queeman and Doobie and probably Aaron are like feeding him, like whispering into his ear. Probably very, very weird. Destiny Live. What is this? What? Pollens. 19 hours ago. What am I looking at this for?
What up, Zip? Yo, yo, yo.
Oh, hello.
How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Let me mute your stream real quick.
Watch this debate. This debate was horrendous. Is this worth watching? Why do you have a problem with saying that people are bound by Aaron when men do something like this for pussy all the time? Because it takes away the agent from the guys. It makes it so that you can... I don't like it when people use a thing to sidestep making arguments. So like, I think Lycan made a lot of really dog arguments. I think you can just attack the arguments. That's it. We don't have to do this weird sidesteppy thing, especially because I also try to be very sensitive to like misogynistic or sexually related insults in my community or simply related insults because my community is so heavily male, right? It's like 90% male. So remember, because I'm trying to be cognizant of, right, like who's on what side of the line, that if I start engaging in comments like this, they'll very, very, very quickly become pervasive, right? Like DGG is kept from being rampantly sexist by the thin pink line, or the thin, I don't know what the color line you want to call it, but like if I were to become sexist and just start going off on women constantly, like even the jokes I make are already kind of flirting, like I hate women or whatever, but I think people know this is ironic. But like if I were to become actually sexist, I think like half my community would follow me almost instantly. Like I got a lot of good reason to hate women too. Just kidding. Hold on one second. Ooh. How long is this between Zip and Pisco? Is this like a 20-minute thing or is it like a 3-hour thing?
How we doing?
I'm doing all right. That's how you're doing, but just seeing the public stuff, the debates.
Sorry, I didn't hear
it's
you.
really
It's
short.
Fun time.
Okay.
Yeah, fun times, man. Yeah, I liked our conversation in legal as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm in there a lot, but
He will just what's it?
Really
Google Maps. I thought I read your thing about Hassan. I responded to it. So you super chatted me about Hassan, and I read it. You said Hassan talked about you, and then I read the whole thing. So I think I did read your chat. So sorry.
Okay.
Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. Do you want me to start in my
Wherever you
response to what you just talked about in the
Oh,
intro,
sure, yeah.
or
So-
my original stuff? So you were saying like maybe somebody has a counter argument. I think I do.
Okay, for the gun thing. So there's a hypothetical.
Sure. The gun thing.
Yeah.
Well, my argument is you keep saying, well, can you really say it's
After about 10 minutes, the loop begins.
undemocratic? No. Nobody thinks that would be undemocratic.
Okay.
But democracy does not equal good in every single case. For example,
Agreed.
and I know you know this because you agree. Currently, in our current presidential system, the current president was voted in democratically. However, he's still an authoritarian. He's still doing bad stuff. Just
Totally
because it was democratic does not mean it's good.
I totally agree.
It's not mean it's just.
Thanks, J-Dubs.
If your Second Amendment argument, if 70% of the country voted away the Second Amendment, that would, well, depending on how much you believe in the Second Amendment, that would be a violation of your civil liberty, such that we believe that is a
Wait a
thing.
second. Wait, real quick. So it would be getting rid of a civil liberty constitutionally. Now I understand that might be a bad idea. And
Well, not just a civil liberty. Yeah. If you believe in the right to bear arms, if you believe that to be a fundamental right,
correct,
granted by God or self, whatever then that would be bad.
Okay,
and you agree with this because you would argue. Well, I believe, based on what I know of your positions, you would think far differently about if the First Amendment were abolished by a 70% vote.
Yeah, I think there are certain rights that we can have. So when I say what is like moral or ethical to me, I kind of take like I think that's like a signal and a preference. But if you want to ground it out in whatever you want, I think people place different rights at different sets of salience for sure. But
I'm using the First Amendment because I think you hold the First Amendment more.
Right? There is a, but I think the contention was: is it possible to have a democratic system that abolishes private property? The answer.
So I don't think
the answer is yes, right? Oh, so you don't think
I don't think that was the contention.
Okay, so
no, I don't think Destiny or anybody in the panel was arguing that you could not well, maybe pragmatically, and a convoy actually agrees you cannot do it practically, democratically, possibly. Or he might say it might be possible.
Well, then it's just trivially true.
It would be his ideal. And trivially, you can grant that it would be democratic. However, the issue is not whether it's democratic; it's whether or not you would then enforce it by through the violence of the state, and whether.
Oh no, that's true of everything, right?
Yes, of course, it's true of everything. Right. However, the slavery was legal in this country. Just because it was legal does not mean it was good.
No, I understand that, but
you can enforce an unjust law. A just law can be passed democratically.
What do you say? Sleeper was legal in this country? What do you say?
Through the violence of the state, and whether.
Oh no, that's true of everything, right?
Yes, of course, it's true of everything. Right. However, the slavery was legal in this country.
Oh, slavery.
Just because it was legal does not mean it was good.
No, I understand that, but
you can enforce an unjust law. A just law can be passed democratically.
But let's just deal with
so
whether
the argument is on the merits of the law for this particular point about the abolition of capital and whether you enforce it through the violence of the state. He would not think that was he did not think that would be just because he values free trade highly. The
free trade
liberal capitalist system, he values that enough that for him that would be a red line.
Okay, so let's just walk through a couple things and make sure we have total clarity. So you agree that there's a democratic method by which to abolish private property, and you didn't believe that being contention, correct?
It would be possible.
Was this going to be like an ideological debate, or what is it? Why are we?
Practically, in the real world, no.
Look, Bad Enchilada, maybe Bad Empanada is in chat. I don't know if Bad Empanada would be watching streams. I feel like it's just not his MO.
But hypothetically, you could concede that it's logically possible.
Right, and there's no. Right,
that was never in contention.
Okay, got it. And separately as well, you think
that.
But
the issue is not how you get there. The issue is not whether democratically or authoritatively. You could do it either way. In either case, you would be enforcing it by the violence of the state. Now, from my understanding of the convoy's model of how he would prefer things to be laid out, he would prefer voluntary. Capital would become social by voluntary means. I don't know exactly if he would, at the end of the day, violently enforce it. It's the last 10% or whatever the heck the thing was, but that was the contention. If a convoy does think he would, at the end of the day, have to do that by force, Destiny would think that's wrong, and Destiny would think that a convoy is the quote-unquote bad.
Ironically, I think I was banned for, this is Doobie. I was banned for agreeing with Pisco about Destiny's behavior. There appears to be severe mod abuse in your Discord server. Doobie, myself, and others have been banned for nothing. I was waiting to talk about it. Oh, I was in that server last night. I saw a whole bunch of Justical server chatters in the Pisco server, but whatever. I don't think it's as simple. Destiny has essentially burned the Vosh and Hassan bridge. You're really blaming that on me? Seriously? Really? Okay.
Bad socialist, whatever that means to him and to you, whatever shared definition you want to use. Or
let's linearize, man. Let's just take it really
on that particular point.
Let's just take it really slow. Okay, so take for example, the abolition of alcohol, right? At time equals 0 in America, let's say, alcohol is legal. There are a lot of people who love alcohol, but the majority of the people, the vast majority, the super majority of the country says 70%. We want to ban alcohol in the United States, and they pass a law. Constitutional amendment says the purchase, sale, consumption, transportation of alcohol in this country is hereby prohibited.
I wonder if this has ever happened before.
Yeah. In that instance, would you say that the kind of violence needed to enforce the prohibition of alcohol is the same kind of violence that would be needed to enforce the prohibition of private property?
But that's not in contention.
Okay, then just grant it, right?
No.
Why not grant it?
Because obviously in any system you need the violence of the state to enforce laws. Yes, nobody disagrees with it. Destiny, the counter argument that Destiny, but you believe in using the violence of the state to enforce laws. Yes, of course.
Okay, so the only
disagreement is whether the law is just in itself.
So the only disagreement is it becomes trivially true, right? If what you're saying is I value.
No, it does not become trivially true.
I'm going to wait. Let me finish, right? If all you're saying, by the way, Ogre, what are my fellow liberals? If all you're saying is, Destiny values.
Sorry, it also feels a little bit crazy when Pisco's like, well, this guy came on to have a conversation about me and everything going on. Okay, Destiny. And I want to hear you having a conversation about, the claim that this guy is making. And it's like, hold on. This, wait, hold on. No, it literally, the thumbnail's on my, never mind me. Link me this Ogreboy guy. This guy literally he's not here, but he's the guy that's in the, wait, did he delete his Twitter account? Wait, somebody link it. This guy literally has a tattoo of Hassan on him. Hold on, I'm trying to find this picture. I remember way back a year ago, Ogreboy was on his Twitter and he wrote a tirade about how he was unemployed, had skills and time on his hands. It was going to make you his mission or something like that. Really? He admitted to it yesterday? Yeah, I know, but it's funnier to see the whatever.
These economic liberties, the right to own private property, and therefore anything that would abolish it is evil. That's just analytically true. If what you're saying is if you can't distinguish the violence of it, if you can't distinguish the democracy of it,
issue.
Then the only thing is
the violence is the issue in the non-voluntary versus.
Then all you're saying is, Destiny likes private property, and therefore to get rid of it would be bad.
It's not just because he likes it. You understand that that's different than what I've described his position to be and what he's described his position to be about that, right?
Well, I'm not sure if that's true. So tell me why.
You think it's just because he likes private property and not because it's a fundamental belief that he believes in because of free trade, free markets, open markets
are good, right? He takes those to be good,
it's
right?
It's not just that you agree that what I just described, that's different from just liking it, right?
Well, when I say he.
Okay, I'm just sorry. It's just funny that it's the guy who ends up showing up at the when I'm in. At Hasanabe, any issue with me using fish and your likeness for my tattoo sleeve? So far, I've got Bernie, Sam Cedar, and Michael Brooks, and a James Baldwin quote. The artist I use said I should get your permission. Hasanabe, wanting to add to my tattoo sleeve. Do you have any issues with me using? Hey, I'm thinking about adding you to my SJW tattoo sleeve. I was going to have that same guy do my Cedar and Brooks, blah, 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 blah. And then he did. This, I don't know if there's a better picture of it, but you can see the, on the side here.
He likes it.
Yes or no?
So the answer is no, because I'm taking liking to mean having a preference for, and that's what I take like an ethical statement to be. Right? Like
Well,
he has a preference. Wait, do you agree with that or not?
If just a preference is the same as holding a fundamental belief, then sure.
Hang on. So if I say, okay, then let me adjust my word if it triggers you. So
Oh, cute. And Cherry messages and talks to this guy as well. Crazy how they all just seem to be friends with each other, huh?
I'll give the following phrase.
You have an attachment to freedom of speech, correct?
Yeah, I like freedom of speech. And so if someone said, yeah, you don't want to
just like it. It's a
you're accusing me.
You hold it fundamentally.
I didn't intend to have some kind of connotation when I said like. Well, I literally meant to have a substitute for the word you have a preference for, meaning you think it's valuable. You think it's valuable as a rule, or you think it's valuable as a thing in and of itself.
Wait. I have a series of black work tattoo bands up my right arm that end in a pattern on my shoulder that wraps over my collarbone. This is on the same strip in between the bands as Bernie. Jesus. Also, wait, is this just a debate on socialism versus liberalism? Is that all this is for the next 10 minutes? Is that what this is? Because I have another guy I'm supposed to talk to if this is...
You value it. That's all I'm saying. But you got so triggered. So let's just calm down and let's take it step by step. So he values private property, presumably because he thinks that, I don't know, private property leads to good outcomes, or that private property is a natural right, or right, something like that.
I would imagine it would be closer to the natural right side than just better.
Okay, so he thinks it's the natural right, and so if all he's saying is the reason why socialism is bad is because it abolishes a natural right, then he should say that instead of it requires enforcement. Let me finish it. Then he should say that instead of saying it's going to require to be enforced by the state. That's not the issue. The issue is it's a natural right.
The reason he shouldn't have to say it, or he doesn't think he has to say it, is because that is one of the things that falls under liberalism generally, under some definitions or most people's definitions. Inherent is that it would be things like free trade, open markets, capitalism. Not everybody would define liberalism that way. Not everybody would.
There's a really easy way to.
That was his definition, and it is all mixed up in the issue. The whole thing, not being clear on the definitions of what socialism is, what liberalism is, what capitalism is, what's mutually exclusive, what isn't mutually exclusive. Destiny does think that liberalism and socialism are incompatible.
Okay.
And I imagine you do not agree with that. But that was a whole other issue with the whole thing.
It depends on what you mean by liberalism. It depends on what you mean. It depends on what you mean by liberalism and what you mean by socialism. So on some views of liberalism and socialism, of course, they'd be incompatible. On some views of liberalism and other different ones, they would be totally compatible. It depends on what you mean by those terms. But I just want to be clear about something. Let's just linearize. If the abolishment of private property, this is hypothetical, right? It's hypothetical. I know that this is not practical. If the abolishment of private property happened with 100% voluntarism.
I think he answered in the debate, and I think it was part of why he was asking a convoy for that answer.
What are these guys? I'm guessing I would probably say yes, right? Like, you can vote away some rights that I think you probably shouldn't do. I don't know what the purpose of this question is, I guess. But
even though the answer wasn't really gotten to, I don't remember.
I didn't ask whether he answered it. I'm asking
yes, I am. From my understanding of for me or for Destiny or for in the conversation.
Since you're representing Destiny's View, you're doing your best.
Yeah, I'm the DDD defense guy.
So,
that's me.
Do you think Destiny would have a problem with the abolishment of private property if it was concurrent
to? It's not abolition. Abolition implies that it's outlawed, and if you're outlawing it, it would be definitionally not voluntary. Now, if you argue that it's possible,
no, but you agree that's not true, right? So something can be outlawed and also not require any violence to enforce. You agree with that? There's no contradiction. We're in a hypothetical.
In theory, not as.
No, all laws carry the threat of violence behind them. What is the escape to that? How can something be outlawed but not enforced by violence? Definitionally speaking, a law is enforceable by the state, and if the state is compelling you to follow a law and you refuse, they can compel you ultimately with force. If you resist the force, they'll enact violence on you, no? I feel like that, I don't know how you ever, unless there's like a weird, like, what about a law where you fill out the mail wrong and it's just like a fine and they can never punch you for the fine, maybe, I guess? And they just give more and more fines, I guess?
Violence to enforce. You agree with that? There's no contradiction? We're in a hypothetical?
In theory, not necessarily, but if it didn't require if it didn't require abolition, then you wouldn't have to abolish it. If it was all done voluntarily,
I'm not saying that you wouldn't. I'm not saying would you have to or not have to. I'm simply saying the following.
Yes, but Destiny believes, and most socialists will tell you, probably Econoboy would tell you, that it is a part of socialist belief generally in all writing and everything. It's all been studied that capital owners will, at the end of the day, they will refuse to give up power, refuse to give up their capital under threat of violence. That's part of baked-in assumptions about socialism, about communism.
One thing that you want to cite for this, Zip, if you want, you'd have to go find tweets for it, but this is where the joke comes from when they both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans. This is where the joke comes from when socialists say, oh, you're just going to vote out the fascists? Oh, congratulations, you're going to go and vote against fascism, right? And this is where the liberal counterattack came from. when in South Korea they kind of sort of did that when the government was on some unhinged shit, and those South Korean lawmakers were like jumping fences in order to get to parliament or their Congress or whatever to vote out the dude who was trying to be like a fucking dictator guy. Yeah, but that's what the that's what the socialist joke is. Oh, you're gonna vote out the dictator, right? It's because you can't vote him out. They're gonna fight violently to hold on to power. Yeah.
That's baked in. That's why revolutionary ideals are part of the general thing, because at the end of the day, capital owners, landowners will eventually defend their...
Real quick, did you see Pisco say that he believes you were saying he's the poster boy of Kiwi farms, as in he's a part of the Kiwi farms narrative, not that they use him to push their own... Wait, what? When did he say this? If you're going to say shit like this, you got to link me a timestamp. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, capital owners, landowners will eventually defend their property.
Do you know why I'm asking this stuff? I'm basically the point I'm getting at.
I understand why you're asking.
Wait. Let me. So this is a rhetorical question.
Wait.
It's a rhetorical question. So what I'm saying is, I'm trying to see, does this violence thing matter? Is this actually doing any work in the analysis? It seems like what matters is he views.
It matters because
wait, let me finish my thought.
Violence is just or unjust.
No, he views natural as a natural right or as a self-standing, integral, fundamental right. This right to ownership of private property, correct? That's what we're saying.
I would say so. Yes.
So the abolishment of private property would be wrong, right? It would be wrong to abolish a fundamental right, regardless of whether it would lead to or require the use of violence, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
but like you said,
so the violence thing is
just...
just...
But then for you not to need violence to enforce it, so...
Correct. So
it kind of does matter, right? Because if you just abolish it, but everybody does it voluntarily, and maybe it's not so much of an issue because everybody just gave it up voluntarily.
That's what I mean.
So
It's trivially true. Like, if all he's saying is it's wrong to abolish private property because it's a fundamental right, then of course, like it obviously follows. But if he's making a broader point that, and I know you're saying he's not saying that it's anti-democratic, that it requires violence, so many other things that. Yeah, that
he never said it would be anti-democratic. He was simply arguing in the hypothetical of between Econoboy whether it could be democratically achieved on the pragmatics. But since the question was about Econoboy's ideal world,
also I think Zip said this earlier. Democratic or anti-democratic is not enough. We don't live in a pure democracy for very good reason, right? We live in a constitutional democracy. Some rights are protected even against, arguably, the democracy. Now, unless I guess you amended the Constitution, right? But like. We were a democracy when we had slavery. That was a democracy. We were a democracy when women weren't allowed to vote. So, I mean, like, just because something is democratic or not democratic, I don't think that necessarily makes it good. If 51% of the population voted to the other 49%, I don't think that's a good thing because it's democratic. I don't know how much weight that carries over it.
In your ideal world, would you abolish private? And I don't think he asked the question in that way. I think if he did, Econoboy would have added a specific answer about that question. I don't know.
So let's get out of the realm of completely crazy hypothetical and just like, okay, let's say that there's an abolishment. It is enforced by the state, but we know that it'll engender some minimal amount of violence in enforcement. So only 1% of violence, some trivial amount of violence. They're going to have to be like
the last capital owner left on the planet.
Right. He would still have a problem with it.
Yes.
So it's not really about the violence, man. I mean, like, it's not really about that.
It's about the...
Hold on, I'm so sorry. Am I just not making it? Did Peter say, let's get out of the world of crazy hypotheticals and let's do this hypothetical. Let's say there's only one capital owner in the rest of the entire country and then we vote to take his property. Was that line of logic there? Is that what I heard?
Out of the realm of completely crazy hypothetical and just like, okay, let's say that there's an abolishment. It is enforced by the state, but we know that it'll engender some minimal amount of violence in enforcement. So only 1% of violence, some trivial amount of violence. They're going to have to be like
the last capital owner left on the planet.
Right. He would still have a problem with it.
Yes.
So it's not really about the violence, man. I mean, like, it's not really about that.
It's about the...
Hold on. If you were opposed to slavery, but you, like, let's say you're opposed to slavery. It's like, okay, what if 1% of the population was black? Would you still be opposed to slavery? And you say, well, yeah, then it's not really about the slavery? Does that even logically follow? I'm so confused by this line of logic. Hold on. I don't even understand this at all. I don't understand what was just said at all.
Violence and enforcement. So only 1% of violence, some trivial amount of violence. They're going to have to be like
the last
Why is that a trivial amount of violence? I don't understand what that means, trivial amount of violence. I feel like all violence probably requires some justification. The death penalty in the United States is a trivial amount of violence. How many people do we execute out of 340 million U.S. citizens? It's like not even a rounding error of people. I feel like that's a very weird, a trivial amount of state-justified, state-sanctioned, and state-enforced violence. That's a very weird thing, I think. But
capital owner left on the planet.
Right. He would still have a problem with it.
Yes.
So it's not really about the violence, man. I mean, like, it's not really about that.
It's about the... No, it's not about the violence, but also it is about the violence. I think you understand why the violence is important in this case. I think you understand why Destiny believes that it's a fundamental right. I think you understand why it's content with his liberal beliefs.
I don't like natural law and like fundamental rights. I don't know if I believe in that stuff. I don't know how important that is to this conversation. But
you understand all this. I don't know why you're acting.
We could just compare. Like right now, there's a ton of violence that's needed. I understand that we're comparing two systems.
Yes, that's the point. Violence is enforced in any state. That's not the issue. The issue is if the force is unjust, then that's the issue.
So here's the question. Given a capital system with a significant amount, a significant deal of violence required to enforce its structures, and a social system that abolishes private property that has really minuscule amount of violence needed to enforce the property rights in that context, I think he would still choose the capitalist system. I think you would agree with that, right?
Yes, because the violence is not the deciding factor.
Right. Enforce its structures. And a social system that abolishes private property that has really minuscule amount of violence needed to enforce the property rights in that context, I think he would still choose the capitalist system. I think you would agree with that, right?
Yes, because the violence...
Yeah, some violence is justified, right? Let's say that we could envision a society with zero violence that allowed slavery, but like the people were just like consigned, they were just like, I guess we're slaves or whatever, versus another society that required some violence to ban slavery. I could probably be in favor with the more violent society at that point, but we're like reducing what violence even means here to some absurd notion. Wow, Stefan, thank you or Steven, thanks for the 90, I'm sorry, thank you for the 25 good subs in Kick Chat.
Violence is not the deciding factor.
Right.
It's
It's about
the violence
unjust
is just
violence
or unjust.
Right, and the unjust violence component has to do with whether it's a fundamental right.
Yes.
And so then
I really don't like that phrasing.
it's just trivially true. That's all I'm saying. And the focus on violence
Yes,
is a way to rile up the
but
crazies. Yeah.
Econoboy wasn't able to grant it. You weren't able to grant it.
Grant
no
what?
one was able to say that during the panel, which was the issue.
Wait, no.
No, just say, hey, if you had said during the debate to Destiny, hey, I don't think the issue is actually with the violence. I think the issue is that you think it's unjust. Destiny would just say,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be right to abolish capital.
Of course, yes.
That's why I don't like socialism. I think that's
Yes.
what he would say, because he takes socialism to be the abolishing of capital.
Of course.
However, you didn't say that during the debate.
That's obviously true. Yeah, of course.
This is why
this was ever fleshed out.
This is why he
the issue.
This is why he didn't say it, right? The reason he didn't say it is because he's trying to paint people like Econoboy, people who use the socialist label, or even other socialists, as necessarily believing that violence is necessary and good and just.
But didn't Pisco kind of just grant that when you need some form of violence? Like, I feel like Pisco's very close to saying, oh my God, bro, like Lenin and all these people would be killing themselves in real life. I almost feel like he's about to say, like, it's almost like Destiny is saying that to bring about socialism, you would what? Have to abolish private property? Like, it sounds like he's about to say that. It's like, yes, that's kind of the central tenet. Yeah.
He's not trying to paint it. He believes that.
Yeah.
And he was asking questions to ask Econoboy if that is in fact his belief.
And Econoboy said
Keep in mind,
no.
Pisco,
And he was contesting
Pisco.
him.
Depending on the answer to that question, that determines whether Destiny believes that Econoboy is or isn't a socialist. And that question will be is he the good one or is he the bad one?
Wait,
you agree?
So no, I don't think that the definition of socialism as Steven sees it depends upon the amount of violence needed to achieve the abolishment of private property.
Amount of violence. What is that? What does that have to do with anything that has even been talked about? Yeah, Zip is about to question it.
Violence. If violence is at the end of the day, if you would use violence at the end of the day to fully
in
abolish
any
capital.
respect, even into a trivial respect.
Like, there's a way that you can morph this. And actually, it's good that Zip is trying to focus on this for just or unjust. There's a way you can morph this where you can take all private property with no violence. But I don't know how like esoteric this claim would be, or if you could call this violence. Like, let's say that you created a sleeping pill that made all the private property owners fall asleep, and then when they were asleep, you took them to another land and you put them in a different country and you gave them all their toys and shit. And then in your main country, you took their private, maybe they would say that's violence too, but I mean, like, it's not really about the violence. It's more the outlawing of private property. But then also, yeah, you would need violence to get there. But the problem isn't the violence. It's the end goal. It's the ideal.
Not trivial for you, not trivial for the person
for the one
who believes
last
it's fundamental,
landowner.
I guess.
Right, so he would have a problem. He would say you're a Marxist Leninist if you think so. I just want to make sure that I understand. I'm just trying to understand. And you have all the time. There's no rush. You can have all the floor. Say whatever you want. Ask me whatever question you want. But I just want to make sure I understand.
Yep.
You're suggesting that Destiny would call you a Marxist Leninist if there were a referendum in the United States to abolish private property in which 99.99% of American citizens voted for that referendum. Continue to uphold and democratic values, and it engendered 0.01% of violence and much less violence that is engendered by the current system.
Well, couldn't you make the same argument for slavery, right? What if the vast majority of people were in favor of slavery, even slaves? Like, and I'm sure you could find people who were like, oh, the current system is it is what it is. If we weren't slaves, they'd kill us or whatever. Like, I'm sure you could find people that support, like, I doubt it would be 99% of them, but I would still be opposed to it.
Would still call someone who agreed with that system a Marxist-Leninist in favor of violent revolution.
I don't think he would call him a Marxist-Leninist. I think he understands that that is a separate thing specifically from this. But I think he would agree, and you would agree with what you just said. Yes, it is possible for a majority to vote away the rights of a minority in a way that is unjust.
Yes.
Yes.
I agree with that. No, hang on. But all I'm saying is, in terms of the labeling,
yes, it would be possible to do everything democratically, but for it to still be unjust.
Yes.
And violence.
The question isn't whether.
Yes.
By the way, I don't think I initially agreed with that argument. Does anybody know who debated me on can you vote away, or could you have like a legal voting away of your rights or whatever in a way that you probably disagree with, even if it was done totally legally? Any guesses on who debated me out of that position? Yeah, it was Pisco. Because he was like, because I think Pisco, I mentioned something about like, couldn't you have like, if you were to vote away or vote or change how like the legal system worked, you could have a coup. And Pisco was like, well, don't you think you could have like a legal process by which you followed the rules, but you'd still consider it like a coup? And then I thought about it, I was like, actually, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, you changed my mind on that. But
the question isn't whether it's just or unjust. All right, I'm trying to clarify, right? So I'm not. What's up for dispute right now? Yeah, isn't whether or not he would call it just or unjust. I take for granted.
I don't think he would call it Marxist-Leninist. I think that's a different part of the conversation to this particular one, which is about the socialist label.
But hang on,
it's a separate conversation from the Marxist-Leninist
there we actually do
in
have
that panel.
There we actually do have the abolishment of private property, and there it's actually enforced by the violence of the state. Why is that not a Marxist-Leninist, but the kind of 70-30 example is just a matter of degree there?
What?
Which is the 70-30?
So like,
I don't understand what this is about. This is like, I'm opposed to. We always go to analogies. Actually, you know what? Let's not. I'm opposed to stabbing people. And it's like, oh, really? What if I stabbed you with a knife with a blade that was 6 inches, right? We agree. It's like, yes, you're not allowed to. Okay. What if I stabbed you with a knife with a blade that was 0 inches? It's like, well, I guess not. You're not really stabbing me at that point. It's like, okay. What if I stabbed you with a knife with a blade that was 0.0001 inches? It's like, well, I don't really think you should stab anybody ever. But I mean, like, oh, so you don't really have an issue with the stabbing then. It's something else we're talking about. It's like, well, the magnitude is the principle of it. It's not the magnitude of it, right? Like, I would be opposed with having one slave, like true chattel slave in the United States, same as I would be opposed to having 100 million slaves in the United States. It's not really what we're talking about here,
So in a situation in which you're only able really to get 70% support of the country, the other 30% of like the landed capital owners really do want to keep their capital, and they will engender some amount of resistance. In that situation, but it's all democratically voted on. It's all constitutional to abolish private property. In that situation, are you calling the person?
Wait, how would you phrase this analogy? Well, I was going to say, you're opposed to rape. What if somebody raped a woman with a 0-inch dick? And it's like, well, I guess probably not. I don't know. I don't know how you would even do that. It's like, okay, what if somebody raped a woman, like, you know what labia are like, they stick them in a lip. What if it was a 0.0001 inch? So like it didn't even barely part the lips. And it's like, well, I don't even know how to engage with that question, right? Like, would you be opposed to taking away capital if there was only one capital owner in the United States? Well, if you only have one capital owner, it seems like you've already done 99.99% of the work, and you're probably not even in a capitalist society anymore. Who would that one guy be? Like Mr. America, who owns 99% of the like, I don't even know what that means, right? Yeah.